Clips, clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alrighty, booktubes. Another one of Keeps Clips. So I thought we'd do a daily politics today to try and get up to speed with the fallout for all the bullcrap yet again last night. It's been over a week. Tommy Robinson and his cult, his far right, have been using internets and stuff to cause rammies on the street. So the Daily PoliTITS, Daily PoliTITS. If you like politics, but sick of the tits, then you can get your fix from my Daily PoliTITS. So the format's very simple. Bounce around as many English talking holes, news outlet talking holes as I can, and compare notes. See what some are telling you. The same information, just spun differently, depending on what editorial stance they have. There's also, so that will be just going to the top of the hour news. That will be the BBC going to the top of the hour news. Al Jazeera as well. Let's listen into the RT.
Day's celebrations in his home.
Headlines.
Where everything has a special symbolic meaning. I'm Sean Thomas. This is Inland Visions, and today we are discovering the world of Assassination culture.
Can you pause that? I want to go and listen to Top TV as well, man. It's cringe and laugh-worthy.
A terrorist attempt by Kiev to kill Vladimir Putin at Navy Day celebrations in his home city. That's what the Kremlin says was thwarted in St. Petersburg last month, following a last-minute call from Russia's defense minister to his American counterpart. While Kiev's support for militant groups in Africa leads to a severing of diplomatic ties with Mali, Ukraine's lamenting the decision despite the public confession of its own intelligence service. The US and Israel blame Iran-aligned militia groups for attacking an American airbase in Iraq. That's as Washington positions itself as peacemaker in the Mideast, with tensions in the region reaching boiling point.
Ah, but who gives a fuck about that shit? There's marauding idiots roaming the streets at the UK or shouting about freedom and shit.
Let's get into our top story this Tuesday.
Save our children.
Plan to carry
the children are out in the fucking street rioting. Have you seen the age of them?
Vladimir Putin. It would have targeted the main Navy Day parade in St. Petersburg at the end of July if it wasn't for...
Right, fucking RT is very pathetic, man. Let's see what Al Jazeera, headlines Al Jazeera's talking about. Obviously, for obvious reasons, man, their focus is on Ukraine.
More than 100 people die in Bangladesh. The army is struggling to maintain control after the Prime Minister flees the country.
Looks like the UK last night, isn't it?
I'm Tom McRae, this is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up, a damning report on Israeli prisons uncovers the torture and abuse
what's happened in the last couple of months, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister's been ran out of Dodge.
During ongoing Israeli raids in the occupied West Bank,
Donald Trump had a pop at himself, and the Hungarian Prime Minister had an assassination attempt as well. Anything else going on?
US recession fears. We begin in
all the shit that's happening in
Sudan.
Sudan.
Has taken control of the country after its long-term Prime Minister resigned and fled to neighbouring India.
You notice that none of the foreign muck-muck networks are touching what's going on in the UK with a barge pole. Like, just to upset myself, I'm going to go to fucking Mike Graham, right? Now, bear in mind, this is Rupert Murdoch, and somehow, some way, all the talking heads, they clearly have a political agenda to sell you, a political wing to promote while putting the other one down. And you'll notice how they spin this, man. Well, in fact, what we'll do is we'll compare talk radio to the BBC reporting, right? And see if you can spot their biases.
A phenomenon of nature, but very, very dangerous.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, stay safe, Alina. Thank you very much indeed. Stay out of the way.
That guy's an insult to symmetry, and
to
somehow, some way,
lots of you have got lots
a
to
big
say
fat
about
old
that last
beast
interview
cunt
you
with
did
about
with Mohammed
20
Also, the
million
earlier one that we
fucking
did with Stephen
chins.
Riker.
Looks
There's
like
loads
a
going
pig.
on.
Looks
We'll
like a
bring you
fucking
more of
turd
it
that's
coming
been polished.
after the news
We'll
right here
tell
on
you
Morning Glory.
what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not, because this is the home of common sense. It's the home of right-wing fucking dribbling Rupert Murdoch gremlins. That's what it is. Somehow, some way, they're taking what's happened in the UK over the past week, wrapping it up in this bullshit two-tier policing, telling you how bad social media is, then pointing at everything on social media that's taken out of context and stuff, you know. Look at all the marauding Muslims, there isn't a policeman in sight. Well, that's because the police are a wee bit thin on the ground right now, policing fucking all the marauding groups of windy, dribbling idiots. Up and down the UK, forces are having to bring in cops for neighbouring forces and all that. They're having to monitor social medias and try and respond like that. And remember, the marauding muzzy gangs were in response to the marauding far right, the old BNP, the old National Front apparatus gangs. And if you might not be far right, but you're getting groomed by online techniques, by the ex-National Front, ex-BNP, Tommy Robinson's ex-BNP, Jim Dowson ex-BNP fundraiser, need I go on? National Front, they were a wee bit before my time, but I do know they existed. And I left a comment, somebody left a comment saying the National Front groomed all the football casuals in the 70s, and that's kind of where all the forums and all that came from. I'm just repeating a comment, I don't know the ins and outs of that, I wasn't there, I wasn't about. I notice it happening now, big style. How they're managing to hijack fucking football for their own fucking bullshit, man. And it's sad. It's sad, the home of common sense. Right, let's see how much... Look at common sense. Jeremy Kyle, Ian Collins, ex-Talksport, Mike Graham, ex-Talksport. That's how I first heard about them. Then you've got... I remember... An old pal, Big Marty, said he's going to be the next Jimmy Savile, that guy. As he comes across like a pure pervasive sex-pest, man. Home of common sense, people. Let's see if we can hear it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube.
On YouTube. I mean, look at the figures they get. A Rupert Murdoch gremlin isn't even getting over 4,000 people watching the YouTube stream.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. 3 minutes past 9. Lots of you have got plenty to say about that interview we did with Mohammed Army.
And remember, they've just, there isn't an editor, there isn't producers, all the way doctoring handed down to them from Rupert Murdoch's company about what stands to take, how to frame things. You can hear it when you listen to different presenters. They'll frame different things exactly the same. Almost as if they've had like a meeting with head office about how to frame what's going on in the world, rather than, you're an independent journalist. batter on and start talking about this.
Jonathan says this interview with Mohammed is absolutely extraordinary. Extremists like him that fail to condemn the attacks on anyone outside of those he supports is actually the root cause of all this hate from radical Islam and the extreme far left. And Angela says, what a laugh I've just had.
Right, so you've got marauding far-right fucking gangs starting rammies up and down this country, and that guy's talking about the radical left and Muslims. What planet are these fuckers on? I made a video, what social media universe are you in? There'll be people watching this, like, not being able to see through this guy's tripe. Oh, Mike Graham's just a fat man at the people. I mean, who would, he's the home of common sense, he's just speaking common sense. What's common sense about watching far-right inspired gangs fucking ripping England apart for over a week now, and then start talking about the radical left and Muslims? Have you seen the fucking pro-Palestine marches try to burn any cunt out of hotels or houses? Have you seen them looting shops? I seen one post, man, and it was like showing you the video of the guy in the Rangers top down in Hull, I think it was Hull, looting the Greggs. Fucking disgusting. Breaking into a blue shop when there's a green one right next to it. You can find humour.
Your Muslim leader making excuses for the violence against the Sky Truck and the pub. He's trying so hard to deny the proof you're giving him. No wonder we are doomed. Blip. It's a big blooming blip. Well,
after everything that happened last night, this is what they're focusing on. This is what head office is dictating. This is what's dribbling out of Rupert Murdoch's poisonous fucking far right wing mouth. I mean, but hey-ho.
It certainly is. We bring you this morning lots and lots of news from the front pages. Starmer in spat with Musk over riots. That's because Keir Starmer and Elon Musk are going at it over Elon Musk's claim that civil war is inevitable in response to unrest across the UK. And he said to Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, that what he should be doing is condemning all sorts of attacks. And he should be saying that he's going to make all communities safe in the UK, not just the Muslim community. We've also got the UK to deploy standing army of riot police, but officers fear that there are shortages. Also, of course, the big story that we talked about earlier on, the Metropolitan Police boss dodges two-tier policing question on riots when he came out from Cobra meeting yesterday with the Prime Minister.
Look at that. Underneath, I don't know if you can read that. Nigeria, Malaysia and Indonesia issue UK safety warnings. How funny is that? How funny is that? 4XLXE, how you doing, DJ? In the windy looking morning, my man.
And knocked a microphone out of the hand of a journalist. Shall we have a quick look?
Let's see this. Now, just remember everything that happened yesterday. Just remember everything that happened yesterday. They're 2 minutes into the top of the hour news. They've not even mentioned the word far right. They've mentioned the extreme Muslims, the far left, and now they're going to talk about this police guy getting pissed off with like retarded questioning and this retarded framing some form of two-tier policing. This is the route they're going down. They don't even give a fuck about the 3 little girls that died and the rest of them that get stabbed up anymore. Woo! That was fucking yesterday's chip paper. Now it's about two-tier policing! Two-tier policing! Right? And I was listening to a talking head when I was in the bath there, and one of them was like fucking shocking. I was looking at Tommy Robinson's Twitter this morning, and he's on there moaning about a riot police pushing a rioter to the ground. And you're like, he's the same guy that was championing on the cops rattling fucking that brown cunt in the airport to the face. I mean, like, surely people can't fuck it. Surely people can see through the hypocrisies of all these far right fucking lunatics sitting above you, controlling folk. Wibble wobble, mate, just go like that. Right, look, this guy, oh, look what they're trying, look at how they're trying to demonise this guy. Oh my god! Oh, it's so shocking! Oh my god! Oh, he's a barbarian! Oh, he had to get jailed for at least 15 seconds for that! Think about the microphone!
Yes, met with attitude, as it says there on the screen. Yeah, very petulant and ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a very good meme, met with attitude. Nothing about the fucking crackpot fucking white British males that were fucking rioting left, right and centre. Not a fucking dicky bird. This is why it is not healthy to tune into the news, man. It really isn't healthy to constantly tune into the news.
For somebody who's supposed to be a leader of men. We're still trying to find the clip. If we don't find it today, we'll look for it and get it tomorrow. When he said after the Manchester airport incident, basically, that no police officer should ever lose their cool. It's unforgivable. They should always resign if they do so.
What about the one that volleyed the brown cunt in the airport? He left his cool, cracked that guy in the face, and this fat man here was saying that him getting suspended was ridiculous. But this guy, touching a microphone, oh, what you did was he has to resign. I mean, how pathetic. They're scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel.
He has not resigned. We're going to talk now, though, coming up.
Not resigned for touching a microphone.
Together at Tamworth, former borough and county councillor, because 3 petrol bombs were thrown at a Holiday Inn Express hotel in Tamworth on Sunday night. That's up in Staffordshire. One officer suffered a suspected broken arm in what the force described as targeted violence, with projectiles and fireworks thrown from a hostile crowd. Let's get a voice note from Daz, who wants to say something about the Birmingham protest last night.
Hello, Mike. Great show as usual. Just want to discuss on the Birmingham.
It's like fucking Jabba the Hutt, man. I don't even know how. I genuinely don't know how he makes work and all that.
Was right next to one of.
Right. So what have they shown you so far? How many minutes in? 5 minutes in, they've shown you absolutely fuck all, apart from marauding Muslims, far right leftists, and Palestinian flags. The reason Palestinian flags are getting thrown right now is because I don't know if you know this, because you tend to ignore it and just poo-poo the suggestions that there's a genocide perpetuated by the state of Israel going on in the Gaza Strip right now.
The biggest police stations in Birmingham, really. And as they were walking up there, we saw, because we were watching on the live stream, because obviously if anything kicked off, we needed to get out of Dodge, and we saw like 2 police cars turn round away from them, and then they went down to the police station.
I don't know how much more I'm going to
tolerate this,
man. I really don't.
The traffic lights.
It's
next to the police station.
Unbelievably fucking biased.
Police went there, but it was still like a good hour after they went there. So
I'm shocked that Talk, that's what they call themselves anymore, because they can't afford a TV licence or a normal radio licence. And they can't afford proper presenters that can fit through a fucking normal door. They need to fucking get this guy in a forklift. I'm shocked that there's people that listen to this news station who are just on who are just a Tommy Robinson Twitter follower and just gobble that shit up. Unbelievable. Pontiac. Tommy on a live interview shoveling his shame shit again, mate. It's all he's got. He's a fucking one-trick pony. Call him a bigot and he just starts talking about how many people Jesus killed. I mean, this guy, these are the people that will stand in front of you and say they believe in virgin births. They'll point at the Quran and go, that wee girl was only 9. That wee girl was only 9. And then I bet, what, Mary? No, she didn't get pumped off an adult. No. That was a virgin birth put in there by a magic man in the sky. You just need to remember that shit.
Yeah. Anyway, good show, and thanks. Bye.
Daz, thank you very much indeed. Always good to get a first-hand account of what actually happened, and that is the problem.
Yeah, first-hand account of a fucking voice message on WhatsApp. Mate, you can't confirm who that is, where they called from, whether they were there, or whether they're just one of the fucking apparatus out there to spread filth through the media. Which, by the way, they do. I witnessed it myself. Any fucking shit I put up with Tommy Robinson or far right in it, man, the amount of shit I need to filter out. Unbelievable. Tommy Robinson ever mentioned the nonsense from the BBC? I don't think he has even covered that yet, mate. you talking about? I always get his name wrong. It's no Hugh Evans, it's Hugh Edwards, isn't it? Right, so let's see. Right, one day I'm going to just do a wee live stream about this guy and figure out if people... That's definitely a wig, innit? A really bad wig at that. Sorry, mate, but it's just too scandalously bad to no point out.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Police officers come under attack in another night of violent disorder in UK.
What a different flavour. Huh? It's almost like it's a different fucking universe. Where's the Palestinian flags? Where's the marauding Muslims blocking roads and all that in Birmingham when this was Plymouth, I think, was it last night? The main shit. It's
Several officers are injured in Plymouth, while petrol bombs are thrown by protesters in Belfast.
Yeah. Belfast is a bit like France in the sense that they don't need an excuse to riot, man. They've got stocks of petrol bombs in fucking every house, man.
Talks are underway in Bangladesh between student protest leaders and the military, which has taken charge after the Prime Minister
Birmingham last night?
And fled.
Birmingham.
Blindfolded and beaten, Israel's leading human rights organisation has likened the country's prison system to a network of torture camps for Palestinians. This as the UN sacks 9 members of its refugee agency in Gaza after finding they may have been involved in the October the 7th attacks.
May have been involved. What a shit show that area of the world is, man.
And I'm Courtney Bembridge, live from Edinburgh Festival Fringe, where we'll be catching up with some of the acts performing here throughout the month of August.
There's a war going on here, man. We get fucking live riots to watch on 24-hour news, 24 hours a day, family.
Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Nicky Show. We start this hour here in the UK, where there's been renewed rioting in some cities in England and Northern Ireland. The worst outbreaks of violence came in Belfast, Plymouth and Birmingham. Nearly 400 people have been arrested after a week of violent disorder, which began last week in Southport after the fatal stabbings of 3 girls and escalated following misinformation about...
I would love to go and ask the rioters from last night, do you know the name of the 3 dead little girls? Did you, before you started smashing up the town, did you take any flowers, a wee candle, a wee teddy bear or something to the vigil, to the memorial for the dead and attacked girls? Oh, fuck, and 2 adults as well, wasn't it? I'd love to do a genuine poll. I mean, who was it that shared a video with me just after Southport? And it was this little prepubescent white cunt sitting on a train with his pal. They'd fucked up the trains and they weren't going to Southport, so I think they said we're going to go down to London and go somewhere, right? And it was so laughable. This wee guy, you know, like the wee pubescent fucking teenagers who can't grow a proper beard, but they grow their bum fluff out and it just looks redonkulous. And this cunt had 2 patches of bum fluff there on his chin, nothing else anywhere, but because there was hair coming out his chinny chin, he left it up there, and some sort of a fucking pathetic moustache that looked like you'd went like that and cut some of your pubes off and just stuck it on with fucking some, what do you call that? Glue stick stuff. A glue stick thingy. And you're like, oh my lord, just mobilised the fucking window lickers up and down the UK. But not to worry, we're going to have a new border force. We're going to have a standing army to counteract this shit. Thank you very much, far right.
The identity of the perpetrator spread on social media. Last night in Plymouth, at least 3 police officers were injured in what the police described as sustained violence. Bricks and fireworks were thrown at them. 6 arrests were made. In Belfast, riot officers had
Rangers are playing
stones
tonight.
and petrol bombs thrown at them close to a...
Right, so who are Rangers playing tonight? Is it Dynamo Kiev that football fans have known for some time? They've had their ups and downs, but are a relatively big club. Or is it Dynamo Kiev? Because the war has renamed that city, you know.
Supermarket, which was set alight at the weekend. As the latest disorder unfolded, the Prime Minister criticised the owner of X, Elon Musk, who posted...
Right, hold on. The far-right, windy-licking cult, burning shit, looting shops, all your Asian mob doing in Birmingham or Wigan or wherever that was, probably get tuned into it on here. What was the worst thing they were doing? Flying Palestinian flags, driving motors like young, dumb, fucking ass teenagers. Find that everywhere, you know what I mean? They're just doing donuts round a roundabout. And one of them appeared to have what would be some sort of a stick or club, which everybody was calling a sword, which it wasn't. And compare that with petrol bombs, big bits of sticks, bricks, fences getting pulled apart off of public, the UK citizens' walls, gardens, so on and so forth, to get lobbed at the coppers. Did the Black Lives Matter fucking shit ever get that dirty? Can't remember. What about the pro-Palestinian marches? I mean, the worst I could hear the pro-Israel press wet their knickers about was, they're singing pro-Hamas songs from the river to the sea. And then, like, it's the River Jordan in it to the Med. Palestine will be free. I mean, it doesn't say anything about fucking killing or genociding or anything, but somehow they spin that into, that means the destruction of Israel. It's fucking hilarious. And then compare it to this shite. Organised, far-right thugs with paramilitary-esque. Well, it's what you would see in your sectarian riots of the past and your football hooligan riots of the past. It looks exactly the same to me. That's because it pretty much is.
The civil war is inevitable in the UK. Our reporter,
Woohoo!
Aruna Iyengar, has the
Thank you, Elon, you fucking Bond villain, artistic prick.
Two opposing protests in Plymouth started out peacefully before vocal...
But I like boats. Oh, Lilo's okay. That would have been my sign. What defines a small boat?
Clashes between the anti-racism and anti-immigration groups. Police in riot gear were deployed to keep the groups apart, and several officers suffered injuries as violence later broke out.
Just compare the pictures. What looks more threatening?
Hundreds of people moved up the Hoe Park onto the kind of the promenade and the memorial area. 10 minutes after that, there was a strong police presence kind of dissipating them after they'd set fires and things. And then there was a huge group of rioters outside our front door, kind of smashing things, organising themselves for further mischief. And then 10 minutes after that, it completely moved back down towards the town centre area.
There was also unrest in South Belfast. Last night, riot teams were deployed to Sandy Row as a petrol bomb and stones were thrown at police officers. In Birmingham, cars were smashed and a pub was damaged after protesters gathered following false rumours of a planned far-right demonstration.
Oh, let me get this right. So the brown motherfuckers were mobilised by bullshit online, by anonymous sources parroting shite. Now, if you were to go on MO, you would say that could possibly be the far right trying to bring the brown motherfuckers out in the street for a ruckus. Or it's just fucking idiotic brown motherfuckers doing that to bring them out on the street. Either way, it's people getting wound up and turned into fucking genuine bona fide windy licking foot soldiers on the street by bullcrap on social media. I bet it's on the BBC about Jimmy Savile. Fuck's sake, man.
Hate crime investigation is underway in Burnley after gravestones in the Muslim section of a cemetery were covered in white paint.
No, that's
I
lovely.
still think that there is a way to bring this to an end by people coming together as a
I'm
community.
sure it was just big pigeons.
Seen in the clean-up operations.
The
Now,
big pigeons
that strength of community
stuck into a tin of paint and then they're just flying
and
over
that's
it and
what
shitting
we
on it.
Call upon to bring this violence to an end.
Meanwhile, in Southport, the community is dealing with the horrors of last week and the disorder that's followed.
You won't get the violence getting called to an end because, especially, well, it looks like maybe on both sides now, there seem to be intent of having a fucking fight. But especially from your Tommy Robinson far right mob, the leaders, Jim Dowson, Nick Griffin, the old remnants of the BNP, Tommy Robinson, and all his gremlins. If you go and look on the Twitters and the social medias, everybody that parrots his pish, shares his shite, they are just parroting pish to wind people up more and more and more and more. No doubt in their Telegram groups, their secret Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups, they'll be organising and conducting more, I don't even know if they'll call them protests amongst themselves.
The family of Leanne Lucas, who was stabbed while leading the children's dance class, have shared their disbelief at what's going on around the country.
It's mental, isn't it?
Just let us recover us.
Most sensible thing I've heard off of fucking any fucking press outlet, man. Go the fuck home. Rediscover your dick. Play a PlayStation. Even watch some porn or something. I don't know. Just stop taking to the streets and ripping up people's houses. You're giving the government political capital to shove all sorts of fucking new laws, new police forces, all sorts of crackpot fucking shit down our throat. All in time for Nigel Farage getting in 2029. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, the best we can. I know
Look
we're
at
not
the
never going to
attitudes.
recover, but at least give us a
Look
chance
at the
to.
attitudes that...
Police say they're working around the clock to identify
Would
more
you
people
call it?
involved in the violent disorder, with more arrests expected in the coming days. Aruna Iyengar,
Look
BBC
at the
News.
attitudes of the general attitude of the
Well,
country
let's go live to our
that Nigel
correspondent,
Nigel
Harry Farley,
Farage
who is
could
at
be
Westminster.
inherent in
So, Harry, more violence
2029.
last night, and the Prime Minister has spoken about holding those responsible both on the streets and online. But I suppose the question is,
So you get the
how
same
can the government do that?
hairdresser guy as Donald Trump.
Nikki, morning
Just
to you.
fluff it
Ministers,
up.
that we've been hearing
Fluff
from
it up over my bald bit.
as you say, about criminal activity online, such as inciting
White
violence,
European and
but
American
also
immigrants.
separately about the
No,
spread
yes,
of
that
misinformation
DJ,
online.
it fucking cracks me up, man.
And, argues that
Where was it? What was I listening? I had to turn off talk this morning when I was in the fucking bath, right? And I put on Times Radio. Same talking points, but they pretend to be a wee bit more intellectual. And there was a caller came on and he started talking about the guy who stabbed up the little girls. And he's like, no, but he was the son of an immigrant. He was like, but he was born in this country. And then one of the presenters or somebody went like, so how many generations do you need to be here before you're considered British? You know what I mean? Because if you want to go down that road, you can really look into the history of the natives of Britain and where Robert the Bruce, through the Declaration of Arbroath, said where fucking the Proddy Scots came from. Ain't this fucking neck of the wood, man? Ain't this neck of the wood? So, depending on how far you want to go back, we're all immigrants. Plus, as well, see this race baiting, race card shite. I know that's upset some people, but I really don't see race. Like, see, genetically speaking, like, obviously you can see the genetic differences through appearance and whatnot, right? I'm no denying that. But genetically speaking, we're all fucking mongrels. There isn't a master race, a pure race out there. What was it? I'm acting like I've not got the internet. Europeans have Genghis. Is it Khan? Can DNA. I heard this. Are the Europeans Descendants from Genghis Khan in East Asia is well documented by Chinese sources. Oh, there we go. 8% of men in the religion, about 1 in 2 worldwide, share one single male ancestor. So it depends how far you want to go back with all this pish, just to divide us, man. I mean, like Spock would be having a fit with human beings acting like this. That is not logical, Captain. Anyway, let's get back to the BBC's.
Social media companies.
So genetically speaking, we're all fucking mongrels. That's the way I see
we
it.
heard briefly, as you mentioned,
All this perceived race division doesn't really wash
between the Prime Minister and the CEO of X, Elon Musk, one of the richest men in the world. And Elon Musk highlighted a post by the far-right activist.
Man, this is another time I've heard people fucking say this, right? He's obviously don't come from Scotland. He's have never been up here in Scotland, especially the metropolises we have, man. I mean, go to Edinburgh, it's not even Spot the white cunt, it's Spot the Scottish cunt. It's all fucking tourists, English, Americans, and the rest of it. Depending what area of Glasgow you go to, where I stay right now, it's fucking like fucking Islamabad, right? It's Spot the white cunt. Cross that road over there, it's Spot the brown cunt. It just depends where you stay. We've got plenty. And long dock. I mean, Glasgow has been a seafaring nation and a trading city for a long time. Longer and bigger than most other cities in fucking the UK other than London. So we've had black and brown motherfuckers coming out our ears for a very long time. Just like the knife violence through leaders up here who understand the consequences of doing this, man, and people getting stabbed up left, right and centre because they fucking went and crossed a road. In collaboration with the cops, managed to get rid and manage the gang violence and just the attitude of every cunt was going out fucking with a chib on them, man. I mean, growing up, man, the people, you just carried knives. A lot of people just carried knives. We used to play a game when we were like 8, 9 year old. It was called Knifey. Because every cunt was carrying a knife. So somebody would always have a knife about them. And you were on a swing and you would have a knife. And you were to like swing back, and on your back swing, it was only like a wee sort of a muddy hill. And it was who could stick the knife in the ground the furthest away. Funnily enough, the tallest people always won. We've had sectarian violence up here. Well, I say we've got sectarian violence on a very low level. Nowhere near the level it's over in Northern Ireland, for obvious reasons, I would say. And nowhere near the level that happened down in England when the IRA was bombing and fucking hitting the Conservatives with RPGs and shit, rocket-propelled grenades. I think I'm right in saying that IRA or the UDA, UVF haven't bombed any shit up here in Scotland. A lot of their members stay here, funnily enough. Maybe that's why we don't get blown up as much. Ayrshire's fucking dribbled with fucking paramilitaries, man. Honestly.
Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson, to his 193 million followers, and then separately the sort of war of words that's really emerged between the Prime Minister and the CEO of X, Elon Musk, one of the richest men in the world. And Elon Musk highlighted a post by the far-right activist Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson, to his 193 million followers. And then separately, in response to another post about the riots, Elon Musk posted, "Civil war is inevitable in the UK."
Well, I used to stay Pontiac. I used to stay in Govan Hill, and that's Sturgeon's constituency. I don't know. I don't know if she's still an MP. I don't even know. She's just disappeared off the radar while all the legal stuff goes through, you know. She can't, because you can't. Talking about an ongoing legal case, especially if you're in the position to influence anybody, is stupid. Hello, McFly. Hello, Tommy. And these windy-looking followers. How much Viking DNA in Scotland? Well, mate, if Pontiac, go and read the Declaration of Arbroath, my man. It will tell you where the Vikings and all that came from. The Caucasus, they came from like modern day Israel. But north a bit, the north tribes are the Israelites, hence being white. Govan Hill, notorious even, I know. I stayed there for about a couple of years, man, back in the day, man, and it was like I'd went from a 95% white town in Scumbernauld, moved into fucking, I used to call it Little Asia. I was blown away, man. It was a culture shock for me. I was walking down, what was that called? Allison Street, right? And it's got all your Asian sweetie shops. I don't like Asian sweeties, man. They look the business, but taste like shite. Oh, like I've got a sweet tooth, but a lot of the Asian sweeties and all that, it's like deep fat fried fucking marzipan dipped in sugar and stuff, man. But I'm sure lots of people love it. But Govan Hill, man, when I moved there, well, the history of Govan Hill, it used to be all the Irish, because it used to be a place for immigrants. It's still a place, technically, you would say, for immigrants, because it's like, it's spot the white cunt down in Govan Hill, man. Anyway, let's get up to speed about the BBC are saying about Stephen Yaxley Lennon.
And the Prime Minister's spokesperson we heard from yesterday criticising that comment, saying there is no justification for comments like that. But then Elon Musk followed it up, directly criticising the Prime Minister, who said last night that he would not tolerate attacks on Muslim communities. And in response to that, Elon Musk posted, "Shouldn't you be concerned about attacks on all communities?"
Now, this guy is either stupid or he's at the wind-up and knows exactly what he's doing. He's like that with his little band of merry, windy-looking followers on Twitter. And I'm not here to defend Keir Starmer or any Prime Minister at all, but he was talking about the far-right who were organising and going to go and attack mosques. Did you see anybody down in Birmingham surround a church? Well, kinda. I think they did go to a boozer. But here's what I'm thinking. Why the muzzies would have went to the boozer. They're all sharing the fucking fake news online about the EDL or whatever, the far right mobs coming to that area to attack whatever. So the muzzies all gather and go, right, where the fuck are they? Can't you find them? So you would have checked the train station and the boozer. Where else are you going to find the cult of Tommy Robinson, man? The fucking boozer. So that kind of made sense to me a wee bit. Or no made sense. I can understand how the things transpired. But the Prime Minister was talking about, his comment was talking about the attacks on mosques, the smashing of windows and all that. I've not heard any reports about any churches, temples, yada yada, other magic men in the sky buildings getting attacked.
So there's that context, I suppose, going around, that spat between the Prime Minister and Elon Musk. We heard from the Justice Minister, Heidi Alexander, this morning, rejecting accusations among some from the protesters, among some rioters, about two-tier policing, essentially, that the police manage protests in different ways, depending on which community is protesting.
Well, this is the way I see it, right? The cops rock up and there's a bunch of Jesus sandal wearing hippies chanting protests about Palestine to be free, right? So they're like, right, this is going to be quite easy to control, to corral, get them to walk the right path and all that jazz. Then you get a bunch of crackpot, vast majority teenager football hooligans turn up who are hitting the cops with bricks in fences, setting fires to buildings, etc., etc., etc. And you want the cops react to the situation. The police the situation as it needs policing. So if your Windy Licking Tommy Robinson army wasn't baying for blood, trying to orchestrate violence, throwing bricks, wheelie bins, the rest of it, at the police, for what reason I do not know. Is it the police that went in and stabbed up those little girls, or is there Muslim police? I don't even know. It makes no logical sense. Absolutely no logical sense what's happening here at all.
She rejected those allegations when she spoke to us this morning.
Fundamentally, the police will take operational decisions about how to police protests effectively. What I do take issue with, though, is the idea that what we're seeing on our streets at the moment is a protest. It is not. It is outright sheer criminality and violence.
Uh-oh! She agrees with me, or do I agree with her? Uh-oh! But she's on the BBC, so logically follow my train of thought here if you're on the social media when they like in gravy train. So logically, because of Jimmy Savile, and because she's on the BBC, and I agree with her or she agrees with me, it must be lies. Because I still get people, but that was on the BBC. You're like, aye. It's better than Tommy Robinson's fucking Twitter for news. Right, so what will now be interesting, seeing the first 5 minutes of talk, seeing the BBCs, they've not shown a brown person or a Palestinian flag yet. Let's see how Comcast, the Yankee Doodle Dandies, through their Sky News outlet, tells us. So, British government, Rupert Murdoch.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on today's programme. Another night of sustained violence with petrol
Woo!
bombs thrown at police in Belfast and police hit with bricks and fireworks in Plymouth.
After a former senior counter-terror officer said the worst of the riots should be treated as terrorism, the government's courts minister wouldn't be drawn on that, claiming it's a call for the Crown Prosecution Service.
And as those riots continue to spring up around the country, we'll talk to an expert in mob psychology about what drives some people to take part.
It's Tuesday, the 6th of August. Your headlines.
That will be interesting. Now, I'm being serious here, right? No, and I'll happily stand corrected. Did anybody witness any scenes like this at all at the Black Lives Matter protests? I can't remember seeing stuff like this. I can't remember hearing so many police getting injured, and I can't remember hearing about this amount of people getting arrested. And the party line that they're going down is this two-tier policing shite.
In Plymouth, several police officers are injured and
Best
a police
job for
van is
police
damaged
watching
on
a
another night of
peaceful
anti-immigrant
protest was
far-right
like
violence.
to be the smell.
Is this to police tonight?
Probably smell a BO and weed, man.
Off the scale. It's off the scale today.
The weed would probably last or a BO.
In Belfast, the second night of violence sees rioters throw
Come on, that's
petrol
fuck
bombs
all in
and
fucking
missiles at
Belfast, to be
police.
honest, innit?
A huge fine of
And again, it's all the
£168
youth.
million for failings at 3 water companies. The water regulator says they're prepared to fully exercise their powers.
We can fine them up to 10% of the relevant turnover. The Thames fine is 9.
They've turned into He-Man. I have the power! But do your family members also have stocks and shares in the companies which are raping the poor English people just to get fucking water out their taps, and then every summer get told hosepipe ban? In the country that it never stops fucking raining. Something's not right here.
And that recognises the seriousness of the breaches that we have uncovered.
Again, Gaza,
Student protesters
the
in
Middle
Bangladesh
East,
call for Nobel
probably
Peace Prize winner
Bangladesh.
Mohammed Yunus
So, yeah, that's
to leave
the
the
Middle East,
country
isn't it?
after the Prime Minister flees. The full extent of failings and conditions at Wandsworth Prison is revealed, highlighting a deeper problem with Britain's prison system. And traders take courage. Asian markets rebound after a day of sell-offs saw huge falls around the globe yesterday.
Down a bit, left a bit, right a bit, and your money's gone. Please play again.
Several police officers have been injured in Plymouth after being attacked by rioters last night. It marks yet another night of sustained violence after false information spread online about the Southport stabbings, which sparked far-right anti-immigrant disorder. Today, a former head of the UK's counter-terror police force has said it's time to start treating the worst of the riots as terrorism. More on that shortly, but first, Dan Whitehead has the latest for us from Plymouth.
They were prepared for protest, but not on this scale.
10% for every
More
third
than
found in
4
the
hours,
teams.
violent clashes erupted across this city, a week on from the horrors in Southport.
Did you see that? Hold on, has this got the DVR?
Community anger was in Southport.
Right. Clock this cunt. You know, the real puppet masters are the ones that are clad head to toe in black and standing a couple of yards back and edging everybody on and throwing shit and giving people the idea what to do. And then when it kicks off, you'll see them just disappear. Watch this. No, the guy that's kind of ballyclavered with a hat on here. Watch him push people into the front line. No, don't. Let's see that again. See?
4 hours, violent clashes.
Right, and is that him there again? What would you call them? The black bloc?
Erupted across this city.
Start a couple of yards behind. Come on! Come on! And then as soon as you get a wee line in front of you, start pushing those people into the police. The police might react, hit, and then boom shakalaka. You've instigated a riot.
A week on.
Look, see that guy, look! He's pushing the guy with the pink towards the cops.
Southport.
While he's standing behind him.
Community anger. Now
Ban the burqa!
Hundreds of miles away.
Shame on you. Shame on what the cops are standing in front of you so that you don't just clash like a big bunch of fucking idiots. Oh no, sorry, that's the Jesus sandal wearing hippies. I can tell by the Palestine scarf.
There are 30 or so riot officers on either side of this main road in the centre of Plymouth. They are doing their best to keep these two groups separate. As the
Lager drinking football casuals versus hummus eating Jesus sandal wearing hippies. I mean, there's only who will win. We need Harry Hill. There's only one way to find out. Right.
tension rises.
At least 1,000 protesters from Stand Up to Racism and a counter-group against immigration
shouting shame on you
were
towards
behind
the
clash.
I think it's scary what's happening in the country. The division is awful, and I think a lot of it's perpetrated by the media, twisting things.
People can come in here and just get what pensions they like. They bring their families in. We've got a system that will take care of proper legal migrants. It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
As night fell, the protests got more violent. At least 3 police officers were injured. Those in charge admitting this was a difficult evening.
This is not protest anymore. In my opinion, this is violence. This is sustained violence. Unfortunately, large masonry was thrown at us. Whether it was aimed at us or others or opposing groups, we don't know yet. The investigation will identify that. But yeah, three officers down. How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale. It's off the scale today. With the resources we've got, it's difficult.
There were 150 officers deployed in the city, but at times it didn't feel enough. The PM's promise of a standby army didn't feel deployed here tonight. Dan Whitehead, Sky News in Plymouth.
Well, Belfast also experienced the second night of unrest.
How long till they can actually bring the army out on the street?
The police and several
people in Britain will be
and the police service of Northern Ireland
asking for it.
The public to stay away from some areas of the city while they dealt with public disorder and violence on the streets. Sky News teams saw around a dozen people wearing balaclavas and masks throwing petrol bombs at armoured police vehicles. Well, there are growing calls for the worst of the riots to be treated as terrorism, including from a former head of the UK's counter-terrorism force. Today, there are concerns for the safety of immigration lawyers over whether they soon may be targeted too. Talking to us on the programme earlier, the Courts Minister, Heidi Alexander, wouldn't be drawn on whether some of the violence we've seen should be described as terrorism.
All decisions about charging will be matters for the Crown Prosecution Service, and there will clearly be a range of offences that have been
because of all the idiots out there, we're now going to be moving to a country where the political ruling class have the political capital to pretty much shut down any protest, or a genuine protest. We're now going to be getting the powers to just shut down anything they don't like. I don't know if he's clocked what they're doing over in France. I only clocked it the other day. It was on Associated Press.
Unacceptable behaviour on our streets. And let's be honest, it is racist attacks. It is
during the Olympics, they're putting
and downright criminal behaviour that they need to
suspected people, no judge, no jury, no process, just people of interest under house arrest. Banning them from anywhere near the Olympics, they have to go to a police station once a day, and they can't wander too far away from their home residence.
It's violence, it's disgusting, I think you said. Is it potentially terrorism?
Well, it will be for
the media are stopping this shit up.
As you will understand, there'll be a huge amount of digital evidence that the police and the CPS need to be wading through in order to build the case for the prosecution, and it will be for them to decide what the most appropriate charge is for any individual.
Pontiac, people can't see the perfect storm. I even hate pulling this quote out, man, because the guy's a crackpot, but
do you think there will be building pressure?
What he did say back in the day when
to address this point,
people's heads were in that. Listen to David Icke is better than listening to Tommy Robinson, man. I would argue. But David Icke used to say problem, reaction, solution, right? So the people that are orchestrating this,
put pressure.
It's not that hard to understand the consequences. The same consequences that happened in 2011 when the police and the government were granted more powers under anti-terror laws. What they're doing in France, putting people with no process under house arrest, is done under the disguise of anti-terror laws. And you're getting a problem, reaction, solution. And let's not forget there's a high possibility of Nigel Vadge, whether it be through the Conservatives or whether it be through Reform, becoming Prime Minister in 2029.
Many have been injured over the past week when they're just trying to do their job and trying to keep the peace. And she tried to outline all the ways the government is tackling this and preparing for the kind of influx of potential prisoners, as well as the influx in the court system. She said, we've stood up 70 extra prosecutors.
Well, John, and again, like people, you're getting laid down. I don't know if you're doing this deliberately, man. You're trying to take what I'm saying and make it into something else. There's obviously an immigration problem in this country, in my opinion. I'm just not a Nazi or fascist, and I see the Nazis and fascists hijacking this shit and using it because it's easy to get into people's heartstrings. That's why when I'm saying the people at these riots come protests and they're all coming out saying, I'm no far right, I'm no far right. You might not be far right, but you're getting groomed by the far right. Tommy Robinson and his gremlins, through the power of social media, winding everybody up with lies, a lot of it. It's just lies, conjecture, rumour, memes. Stupid-ass memes.
She talked about 567 extra prison places as well. Now, some would argue, is that going to be enough if this kind of violence goes on for a very long time, potentially the whole of August? Will that be enough space, or will they have to then do more emergency measures to free up space? What was the 2011 ones about that? She was arguing that actually the government is prepared, the public services that are engaging with some of these rioters are prepared, and she was quite adamant about the police capacity around the police's ability to police and kind of keep order on the streets. Now, it's interesting because last night on Sky News, Dan Whitehead was speaking to a senior police officer in Plymouth on the ground, and he said it was off the scale trying to police some of those riots, and saying that it was really quite difficult with the resources that he
Every
had.
time I hear
Heidi
Cobra meeting, I
has,
always think
to an extent,
about
kind of
Karate
rebutted
Kid.
that claim, saying that the
Cobra
police
Kai.
have what they need and so far are well resourced enough. I think we can have a listen now.
It is very difficult for the police at the moment. It's very challenging, and I'd like to put on record my thanks and the
So who
thanks
is
to
this
the
woman?
government, to all the policemen and women
Courtsmen and stuff,
who
right?
are policing these riots. And let's be clear,
Because it's
they
a
are
new
riots
government, you
and
don't
not
have
protest. It's
I don't have a
sheer
Scooby-Doo who half of them
criminality.
are.
I know that the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, speaks very regularly to the police chiefs, and she has been assured by the police
MP should
chiefs
be on the
that
front
they have
lines
the
of
powers and the
police,
resources that they
seriously
need. You might have heard the Prime
why?
Minister yesterday talking about the standing army.
Well, here's the thing, there's the double standards people have got, right? Especially if you come from one particular social media bubble. You'll look at what happened in Leeds, say our country's getting invaded, like they've turned it into a third world country and all that, right? And everybody will just be pointing at it, well, that's ridiculous, attacking our police and all that shit. Did you hear all the pish that was getting spewed on Tommy Robinson's forums after the Leeds riots? Then these ones happen, and everybody wants a psychologist to sit down with the petrol bomb, brick throwing fucking idiots and figure out why. Please, little Tommy, tell me why did you feel the need to pick up a brick and launch it at the cops? Please explain why. Whereas, like fucking Mohammed over in Leeds is like, get out of the fucking country! Mohammed's like, yeah, but bro, I'm a bit... I try to do a Yorkshire accent and I can't. A Yorkshire Asian accent. Yeah, bro, I've been here for 3 generations, lad, bro. Not great, but I was trying to get there. And they'll be like, I don't give a fuck, you're a son of a fucking immigrant, you'll get Muslim in you somewhere, get fucking out of my country. Okay, little Tommy, tell me, why did you, were you locked out the house when you were 12-year-old? Is that why you feel the necessity to pick up a, were you beat up off a Muslim man when you were younger? Did the Muslim gang steal your drug run? It's hilarious, man. You hear it? I've showed you examples of the different universes. Sky News, BBC, and talk whatever, talk in the bin with fucking big fat Jabber a Hutt here. Fucking the turd that's been tried to be polished. Different universes. And people, typical. It's even turned up to 11, that shit that I just showed on social media, where you get blinkers on and you fall down a social media rabbit hole. And when somebody tells you what you want to hear, oh, they're telling the truth. Oh, he hate immigrants too. I'm going to subscribe to his channel. And then somebody says something you don't like. Nah, I don't like that guy. And people can't... A lot of people aren't aware of how they're getting played, I would argue.
Trained public order police officers that we made available this weekend. There's another 2,000 that are available this week, and they can be deployed to areas of greatest need.
70%.
So Hadi Alexander there trying
Not a
to
single
insist
Englishman
that
had a
all is well
passport
when it
when
comes to
colonising
policing
70% of the world.
And one key point I found was really fascinating, and she was kind of following on from some of the rhetoric we heard from Yvette Cooper yesterday on social media giants and how they feel and the government feels that they should be doing more. So she...
Oh, right. So not only is it allowing for more draconian laws to get put on the books by the police and government, it's also genuinely going to allow the government to have more control over social media. Who knows? We might end up like a Chinese-style internet. No TikTok, only Facebook. And YouTube removing even more comments than they already do to shut down debate, sharing ideas, or just winding people up to make them go and riot.
Talked about how, first of all, that they should essentially have a bit of a conscience, and even if certain aspects of the Online Safety Act haven't actually been implemented yet, social media companies should not be waiting for that. They shouldn't be waiting to be forced to do things. They should do things because they want to do the right thing. So trying to almost paint social media giants as being immoral if they don't make changes in the next few days, potentially. And she also talked about how the online world is the next frontier. Now, that was interesting because the language around this kind of war...
Are these politicians just waking up to the fucking social media, the truther industrial complex, your social media bubbles that have been influencing people? Let me get this right. Trump election 4 years ago, over 8 years, very noticeably. So noticeably so that YouTube changed its whole, what am I looking for? It changed its whole format, if you get me. No longer can people who talk about politics get their shit monetised. No, because people were using the Trump train as a money-making fucking scam. And you put up a video, Jeremy Corbyn, you put up a video of Donald Trump. The Donald Trump one earns you a few grand. The Jeremy Corbyn of one earns you 20 pence. Guess what you're going to post more of? It's very simple psychology. It's not that hard, man. Wait, I'm going to go, like you're a rat and you're in a maze. What pile of cheese you going to go to, man, when you're hungry? The big pile or the small pile? It's as simple psychology as that. And it's still happening to this day on social media. That's why, let me have a look, actually, as the Windy and Tommy Robinson Army came along to this clip. I'll be able to tell by just all the thumbs down. Because for some reason they seem to think that's like, I don't know, fighting back or something. Really, really find it hard to understand. But hey ho. Yep. 6 thumbs down, 6 thumbs up. So why? And somehow, some way, this is them feel like they're fighting, doing what's right, patriotic online. You're just thumbsing down a stupid YouTube clip. You're giving it engagement, which, you stupid cunts, helps out the algos and makes us get viewed more. So you're not hampering me. You're helping me. They don't even, they're so stupid, they don't even understand how that works. Because they don't put content up. They parrot other people's content and troll the internet for peoples who don't agree with them to write shit in comments that or thumbs the videos down. I mean, like, I'm a Rangers fan. I've never in my life went to a Celtic forum to argue with them. There's no point. So why the fuck would the cult of Tommy Robinson come to my channel if they even know where my head's at, where my head's been at? It doesn't make any logical sense unless they think there's some sort of a fighting, some sort of a... Oh, it blows my mind, man.
Zone, as it were, that we've seen unfolding on the streets. The government's slightly leaning into it when it comes to the online space, almost trying to say that there is an online war being waged when you're asking about those comments around Elon Musk.
Yeah, it was sort of a hint as if to say
an online war?
Government's online safety bill perhaps could have some bolt-ons or something could go
Truther industrial complex.
That's something
brought you in with aliens, Bigfoot, moon bases, moon landing. Who shot JFK? Next thing you know, you're voting UKIP and love Donald Trump and Nigel Farage. And you know who Le Pen and Wilders and that hungry guy is, whose name I forget.
Is here to discuss the details of this. Paul, break down for us what was been announced.
168 million.
Ofwat, the water regulator, which...
Right. How much have they paid out in dividends to their stockholders? Shareholders in the meantime? They would have probably factored these fucking fines in. Alright, hold on, here's Bangladesh. Let's get up to speed on this. Cut!
Student protesters in Bangladesh have called for Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus to lead the country. This is after the Prime Minister fled to Pakistan following deadly protests. Let's speak to our India reporter.
Pontiac, spot on, everybody sees an opportunity here and will exploit it.
Neville, give
exactly,
us a sense
mate.
of the mood this morning.
From Stammer to whoever's in charge of the Conservatives, if they still exist, to Nigel Vadge, Tommy Robinson, Jim Dawson, and all their gremlins, online gremlins.
Unions have just taken out a statement very shortly before it came here that they have given the government, the military, a deadline of 3 p.m. till they want the parliament to be dissolved by 3 o'clock. Otherwise, they've asked their students to be ready. Now, we don't know what that means, though we know that they have been the most influential and the reason why such a large movement happened in the last few weeks, where the government of Sheikh Hasina, who was there.
Now, make of this what you will, but when this started kicking off in Bangladesh, the government, who I'm assuming this must have been done by the Prime Minister that's got out of Dodge. It's not a president, I'm sure it's a Prime Minister. Being an old British colony and all that jazz, they would have took the British model. There's another Tommy Turd coming along. I talk a load of shite. I can also kick you off my channel, man. It's great fun. Hey, GLE. Nobody's seen any. I talk about people's arsehole windy-licking comments, man. Here, communists, only welcome here if all you do is want to exchange insults. It's as simple as that. This isn't a freedom of speech place. This is a clip dictatorship. Oh, aye, Bangladesh, when all this first started kicking off, do you know one of the first things they done? Shut down the internet. Because again, the internet was getting used by these mobs to mobilise, and over 100 dead, I think. I think maybe that was just at the start of it, when it just started to kick off.
For 15 years, won a 4th term this January, had to resign and flee the country. They are very influential. They have led an anti-reservation protest and then anti-government protest in which 300 people have died, mainly students, and the spiraling violence we've seen across the nation in the last few weeks. They have proposed the name of Muhammad Yunus. He's a 2006 Nobel Peace Prize winner. He revolutionized microfinance in the country, uplifting millions of people, especially women. He has agreed to be sort of their nominee, and says that he will be coming very soon after a procedure in a European country. So at the moment, the Students' Union are saying they will not accept any other government except the ones that they have proposed, and it is quite tense. It's getting to be a bit more serious and tense now in not only in the capital city,
to scratch the country, beneath the circus of this, and might you do it and figure out.
Elsewhere, a US judge has ruled Google acted illegally to maintain a monopoly
Geopolitically speaking, what's going on there?
Internet giant spent billions of dollars to be the default search method on browsers and devices in violation of antitrust laws. Well, the parent company Alphabet says it will appeal the decision. Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to name her running mate today.
When I first clocked, I thought it was Michael Jackson for a second.
VP pick in Philadelphia, she formally secured the Democratic presidential nomination on Monday after a virtual roll call vote. No challengers put themselves forward before the dedeadline, and that deadline.
Mate, Rangers are playing now. Answer me this, Denny. Who are Rangers playing tonight? Is it Dynamo Kiev or is it Dynamo?
Revealed an inspection earlier this year, published this morning.
Interesting to hear what the commentators say, man.
At the troubled facility, the government says it's acting urgently, deploying extra staff and spending millions on improvements.
I'm not that confident, to be quite honest.
Surveillance surrounds Wandsworth Prison through the all-seeing gaze of CCTV. But behind these walls, the cameras capture a story of decline and decay. Mouldy walls, damaged furniture in cells, potential mouse droppings in the kitchen, and dead rats indoors. A catalogue of failures, according to a damning report by the Chief Inspector of Prisons.
Yeah, we went into Wandsworth Prison at the end of April, And I have to say I was really shocked by what I saw walking around the jail. It was one of the most depressing inspections that I've ever been involved in. We saw prisoners locked behind their door for up to 22 hours a day. Staff and prisoners just didn't know when they were going to be unlocked. We smelt cannabis everywhere around the prison. And there was just a lack of leadership really at every level.
Last year, there was a national manhunt after ex-soldier Daniel Khalif allegedly escaped by the underside of a van. And
is that the prison where the guy took a film of getting a blowjob in the cell? And somebody told me in the grapevine it was so she could start up her Just Fans page. What the fucking world in which we stay, man? Gotham City has arrived, everybody.
Despite the high-profile incident, the report claims prison staff still fail to keep track of when inmates leave their cells.
Sentences have just got longer and longer and longer.
Prison reform groups are...
See, that's what I liked about Barrel, man. You were pretty much snibbed... No, you were snibbed up for 23 hours a day, more or less, right? There was no wandering about, you know, so there was no country could get to you, man. Aye. Well, apart from like showers and going to get your grub and all that jazz, but a lot more controlled. And a lot of these new prisons, man, you just unsnibbed your door and everybody's wandering about. No cameras in cells and all that jazz.
And these are prisons that are 170, 200 years old. A prison like Wandsworth needs a significant amount of money. And
Pontiac, I never knew that. She fled to the Bangladesh PM, fled to the UK. That would lead me to believe I would have been interested if she fucked off to Russia, China, or the United Kingdom or Europe, NATO countries, you know. You would kind of you'd get a better idea where her alliances may lay. Bangladesh, I'm pretty sure that was part of the East India Empire. East India Company Empire, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on that. And then when the British pulled out, you got Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. So there would have been British influence, power, structure, influence in that country. And it doesn't take much to encourage the young dungs nowadays through the powers of the interwebs to kick the ruling elite out.
A significant number of people taken out of it. People go to prison for an increasing catalogue of offences and then they don't.
And this report comes at a time when they're talking about sending hunters the rioters to jail.
On the case and
Lots more still to come on the breakfast show this morning. Coming up next, we'll speak to a psychologist about the science behind mob mentalities as protests across the UK continue to intensify.
This will be interesting.
Social, the Secretary told Sky News that disinformation civilized us. Well, in the wake of the riots of the last week or so, tech billionaire Elon Musk's been goading the Prime Minister using his social media platform X. Downing Street criticised tweet replies to Sakir by the Tesla owner, claiming civil war was inevitable. Earlier this week, the Home Secretary told Sky News that disinformation on social media was serving as a rocket booster to the anti-immigrant riots. Our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire's been looking at precisely how.
Chaos across the country and violent, bloody results seized upon online to shift the narrative.
He needs an ambulance, so he does.
On X, formerly Twitter, the far-right influencer Tommy Robinson falsely said these men had been attacked with knives. Just half an hour later, Staffordshire police put out a statement saying, "We can confirm this information is false and no stabbings have been reported to police, despite videos fueling speculation on social media."
That's how easily it's done.
A far-right organisation alleged again on X that migrants inside the besieged hotel had a gun. Nothing of the sort has since been reported or stated by police, and that too was reposted by Robinson. This is real-time misinformation, events being repurposed.
Here's real-time windy licking comments. Why do you get to decide what a protest is? What's going on is the exact definition of a protest, OIC. Now, a while ago, I really don't know if these are real people or robots. I think there's robot fucking farms somewhere using AI, or as I like to call them, algorithms. And the reason I think that is a lot of the comments are very similar. In fact, let me see if I can show you this. Right, here's the robots that you get on X. And I love it, man, because the robots keep calling me Lord. So I'm Lord of the Robots. Right? Now, they're all, I'm the most blessed person, extremely spicy, 18. I am so daring, aren't you for you, Lord? You probably the luckiest man. How are you, Lord? I'm so contented you added me. You are the most luckiest person. Hi, Lord, my name is Cassie and extremely naughty. You probably the top most fortunate man ever. Hi, Lord, I'm so ecstatic you loved me. Hi, Lord, my name is... You're the top blessed person. You see, it's the same fucking shit with a couple of wee fucking... And I'm a big bit dyslexic, so me trying to keep tabs on that, man, I don't even delete them anymore. It's hilarious. And if you go to my Twitter, I've got 195 followers. Easy 150 of them are all those robots. Easy, fucking peasy. But I just keep them in, man. Well, I keep them in until Twitter might discover they're a robot or their account gets shut down for getting reported. And it also influences people to maybe sub to your Twitter as well, because they go, oh, look, there's people that actually subbed to that. Easily done. Right.
Just reshaped almost as they happen by online influencers, in turn exacerbating the situation back on the ground. And much of that is down to Robinson's expanded reach on X. If you look at this is his follow account on Twitter, as it was called. He was obviously not allowed to post or tweet then, and since he's been allowed back on, his followers have surged more than 200,000 over the last 30 days.
Who knows how many of them are real robots? The far right, Russia, China, they've all got a dog in the fight to destabilise the West. Tommy Robinson and his windy-looking army are doing a really good job of it, aren't they? Doing a great job of it. Lord is popular. PoliTITS, see, sometimes I try and get so drunk that I actually just believe all those messages. Like, hey, I'm one sexy motherfucker. And then I go into a boozer, man, and and for some reason I don't get all the women floating round me telling me how lucky I am and how handsome I am and all that shit in a boozer.
And that means when it comes to a tweet like this, obviously incorrect. This is reaching many more people. This hasn't been taken down. There's been no note attached to it to warn.
Nah, I'm pretty sure if you go into fucking Tommy Robinson's Twitter, all the pish that he spews out about the guy that stabbed up the army officer. Oh, it's clearly these brown people coming over here raping, marauding, killing, blah, 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 blah. Probably still up. He just bucatted bullshit out his own mouth without even worrying about it. In fact, he knows exactly what's happening. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's got Jim Dowston, the fucking marketing genius, sitting behind him, pulling all the fucking strings. You remember they used to pretend Britain first and Tommy Robinson's mob never got on? And then behind the scenes they'd be sitting having lunch together and sharing fucking little caravan like a bike. Remember those days, man?
People that
I do.
Is misinformation. And some of that may be because of who's dealing with Robinson, the man who put him back on the platform, the man who owns the platform, Elon Musk, replying to this tweet, quoting Tommy Robinson. And Elon Musk has sort of doubled down on this. He wrote, "Civil war is inevitable," referring...
My God. So, Elon Musk is either provoking this shit deliberately, or he's so stupid he thinks Tommy Robinson's telling the truth. It's one of the two.
To the UK. That may explain why some of the tone online has changed. Look at this. This shows tweets related to Southport and anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant sentiment. We saw this obviously spike during the attack, and it seems to have come down. But actually, what's happened is something different. We've got this line, and this just shows general protest plus anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant sentiment. That has overtaken this line now, Southport itself being forgotten. We see that reflected finally in the types of site being targeted by protesters and rioters. You can see the type of site here, instant red, that is responding to...
What also happens is they're in a forum somewhere, a WhatsApp group, a Telegram group or something, they'll share links like this and say, go along there, thumbs it down and contribute to the poll. I mean, I've got stats there about how many people are watching at the one time, how many people have watched, right? So people aren't coming here for the right reasons. I can understand people tuning in, not liking what they see and tuning out, but in that scenario, they wouldn't start all getting involved in the poll to try and sway people's favour. So 29 people have bothered to vote in a not a Tommy Robinson social media live stream, a YouTube live stream nowadays. This is called a podcast. But anyway, and 57%, 30 votes, 50% says no. So, I'm not even going to encourage them. Can I delete the poll? Ideally, that's what I would have done. I don't know if I can fucking delete the poll. Ah, shit, I can't. But it's just sad and pathetic, man. Like, to think that sort of influences people, but apparently, I'm weird. Apparently, shit like that does influence people. So the soldier was stabbed by who then? By a British black cunt who came from a Christian family. Valence, that's who he was stabbed up with. And how many generations do you need to stay here before you come for the UK? So the guy isn't a Muslim. He's not come from an Asian country, and he was born in the UK. And if you go and watch some of the alleged video footage of him and all that, he was a wee fucking hood rat, won't he be? Like a lot of the kids today. Try to think of a way how I can counteract the poll getting hijacked by the windy lickers. It's hurting my brain. Anyway.
Then that mosque protest on the second day. Then immigration starts coming in green and it becomes more of a concern. Black is general. And what we see planned ahead, if we look at the Telegram accounts we've been monitoring, this is what's planned for the next week. It's obviously a lot bigger. Not all of these may happen. This is a plan. It is not reality yet. But there is a clear focus on immigration-related sites. That is a change. In a post on X, the Prime Minister said on Monday that he would apply criminal law online as well as offline, and that attacks on Muslim communities would not be tolerated. That prompted Musk to respond directly, saying, "Shouldn't you be concerned about attacks on all communities?" He is not backing down. This is a uniquely challenging situation, when the offline and the online worlds are colliding and shaping each other in unpredictable ways. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Lots more still to come here on The Breakfast Show. As
You're
far-right anti-immigration protests continue across the UK, we'll speak to a psychologist about the science behind...
I want the science behind this shit. Not a big floating flat earth.
Welcome back. As disorder, rioting and violence continue across the UK, some have questioned how much it has to do with one particular issue. Psychologists have argued that for some, the disorder has opened up an opportunity to cause chaos without the fear of repercussion due to the large numbers of group conformity and dynamics. To look at the role of mob mentality, we're joined by chartered psychologist Dr. Rachel Molitor. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk us through what mob psychology is.
Absolutely. So when it looks at mob psychology, obviously it's very different between the protest and the trigger of where this all began. But when we're looking at mob mentality and mob psychology, we're focusing on the masses. So we're focusing on the many rather than the few. And we see this very much with people who feel anonymous in a crowd, within a group, and actually they feel like they can get away with everything or anything really without repercussions from law and from potentially being seen and thought, actually, I'm going to get in trouble for this. So we can really see this social contagion, basically, which is happening. People are observing
Internet
people getting away
IDs.
with looting, rioting, causing violence and aggression, and then going through thinking, well, if I can see other people doing it, getting away with it, then I could do it also.
So is that what you think is central to this? It's a thought that you won't necessarily be punished, as opposed to something that you felt like you might have wanted to have done for a very, very long time?
I think when it comes to the start of this and the trigger, I think that people were looking at it and they were looking at it as a reason, something to be able to come out for and to be able to protest. And we're absolutely allowed to have a freedom of protest. But I think this is very different from where we're seeing with this. People have probably wanted to be able to potentially have sort of aggressive or violent behaviours. They may have had those beforehand, but actually it's about an opportunity now to do so. So if you were to go out yourself and you were to go and cause aggression or violent behaviours or rioting or looting or whatever it may be, you will get caught for doing this because you will get found out. You are very individual, you are very secular within that. Whereas with this, you have this almost de-individuation of the identity of the people. So you see the balaclavas, you see people in mass groups, and they're going through with this anonymous, being part of a crowd, and actually following on a lot with their friends. With
Somebody
their
should
peers,
maybe
with
start up
their
a
groups.
group
So the
called, I
dynamics
don't
of this,
know,
the group conformity
Anonymous.
is
I
a
could
really
really
interesting
feed
thing to
into
know.
this.
People are going through with the similar ideas, but actually going through and exacerbating this through areas such as social media.
I was going to ask next, I mean, do you think social media's played a
God,
big part?
TikTok's just fucking full of
I
people
think
wanting to
social
give you
media has played
psychic
their part,
readings and
and I
all
think
that.
when it comes to social media at the moment, that's where everything is being shared. So social media actually does have its pros and its cons to situations such as this. So obviously the cons, which are the main area, is the fact that they can share whether it be where the riots or where the looting is going to take place. They can share the time, the date, what they're going to be
Irony is,
doing,
I don't even
and they
think
can
half
spread
of
that
the
quickly
guys
like
that are there,
wildfire. They
maybe
can
more
also
than
do
half,
that in
are
regards
old
to the
enough to
videos
buy
they have
the
as well. So
fireworks
sharing
for letting
what
off.
people are doing in different cities, and so you get copycats coming through and saying, well, actually, if they're doing it in this city, then I can now do it in another city and I can get away with it as long as I have a large enough mob to be able to do it. Now, the pros of social media is, one, it's being able to support then the general public to keep away from the area just in case something may be happening. So being able to share protective elements of that also.
Joke,
And also
Paddy
it's very clear that people are videoing
Sounds
themselves on
about
social media,
right, Benny.
showing themselves doing violent acts, showing themselves
Oh,
doing
mate,
criminal
you
behaviour.
could pick any
Now,
fight. You could
by
pick any
sharing on
side to
social
be on,
media,
mate.
yes, it can cause anxiety and worry and concern within the general public, but it's also showing evidence of actually what is going on, and actually by someone being on there on social media, if they have their face covered or not, you'll be able to see them and then be able to then hopefully get them in when they do get caught, because this is what they are trying to suggest. It's very important, if you are doing this, whether it be
Mob
in person
psychology,
or
lining
online,
up for the
you are
jabs. Well, we've
causing a
done
criminal
that with
act,
them
and
as well, didn't we?
you are hopefully going to be able to be caught out for it.
Rachel, it's Leah here. Good morning. I wondered your thoughts. I find it fascinating. We're hearing stories about people travelling.
And think of when you go into the when you get the cult of Tommy Robinson come along and leaving lovely comments as they always do, and it's all, everybody's waking up, everybody feels this way, everybody's waking up. I remember 15 years ago listening to Alex Jones and going down to Bilderberg down in Watford, and everybody was waking up then. You know, I don't even think Tommy Robinson and his cult were about back then. It was all about UFOs and the left-right paradigm, and Donald Trump wasn't out yet. It was just a bunch of twoofers talking about conspiracies. And then, fast forward, 12, 13 years later, those people that were all herded into that pen like sheep and followed Alex Jones and David Icke around like sheep are now, a lot of them, are now politically engaged. Whereas, when I was at Bilderberg 12 years ago, 13 years ago, nobody gave, everybody was, nobody had political parties. Nigel Farage hadn't launched himself yet. There wasn't a Brexit to get everybody wound up. People weren't obsessed about brown people and boats. Tommy Robinson hadn't reared his ugly head. It was all about Alex Jones and David Icke, man. They were the main dudes back then. how things change, man. It's been
Miles to take
hijacked.
part in these protests, and people who wouldn't normally protest taking part. What's the psychology there?
So people who wouldn't normally take part in protests or riots or looting, obviously there's that sort of exponential behaviour at the moment. It's very much around the fear of missing out, which I find is a fabulous sort of psychological concept, obviously not so much right now, but people might feel like they're seeing other people doing something and think, well, if they're doing it, I want to be able to do it because I want to be part of the masses.
I want some sausage rolls too.
If you see someone doing a really naughty behaviour and you think actually that's not very good, but actually through the sort of social conformity, you start to then notice people are seeing it as almost a normal. So you're starting to take away from what you see as being wrong behaviour to, well, if everyone's doing it, then it can't be that bad. And that's how we notice then this fear of missing out really increasing with more and more people doing it because their friends are doing it.
Odds Donald Trump's odds are.
So people are saying that, you know, wow, we've done this, it's amazing, and actually then people are now doing it because
they're not as good as they were. I'm getting less money back than cash back.
So when people are starting to discuss what's going on, starting to share information, especially on social media, we then notice then through this echo chamber, it's almost like a Chinese whispers of events going forwards. So people will start to be able to say something in social media, what's going on, and it will just spread. And again, by spreading, it will exacerbate and it will accentuate what's really going on until you're seeing copycat events.
I was getting offered £5.75.
What is your assessment on the best way to deal with it? If
Look at that one, mate. That's looking good.
Towards a sort of carrot or stick type approach. Slam down hard and put people in jail or go through those processes, or is there a warmer way to try and draw people away from potentially wanting to join riots?
I think communication is really a big skill here, and it's definitely something for those that.
Ooh. Harris and Donald are fucking getting close to being neck and neck. You know. See, if I put a wee 5 spot on Harris, right, I'm going to, well, I'd get $20 back, right? So it'd be 15 notes up. Also, if Donald Trump gets in, I'll be 13 notes up, but at 5, 6, 7, it'd be £8 up. So I can't really lose if I put money on Harris and I've got a free bet on Donald Trump. Hedging my bets.
Listen, and this is really important to note for people who are doing the protest for protesting's sake, for the sense of wanting to create change, which, as I said beforehand, we're totally allowed to have this protesting opportunity within our freedom of speech. For those, they need to have a communication to see what is being done and they are being listened to. For the people who are not protesting but actually looting, rioting, having the advantage of this anonymity, then actually by cracking down on these people and saying, actually, you will not get away with this, and by having these harsher sentences and being able to put people in prison, you know, showing them that actually they're not anonymous, by having their faces even out, you know, from the social media, being able to show people who are out there, being able to share potentially people's faces and saying, if you know this person, please get in touch. Because if they lose that anonymity, they lose that de-individuation and start to be noted, then they're not going to want to do it. And by seeing the sentences, seeing the harsh punishments, people are going to come away from it because they will realise that actually there are consequences to their actions.
Dr. Rachel Molitor, thanks so much for joining us.
They'll be convicted by their own fucking mobile phone footage.
Ethan Guo is on a mission to break the world record by becoming the youngest person to fly solo to all 7 continents in a small aircraft. And navigate.
It's interesting as that is.
I'll become the first to raise a million.
Just to mention it.
Very.
Oh my god, check the fucking age here, man.
But
right, I think that might be Sky News finished with the news.
Liverpool. Sunday saw mobs clash with police in Middlesbrough and Solihull.
So let's.
At least 109 people were killed in violence on Monday. Again, protest energy storage and
in peace.
Award now.
They want to reverse and win the and so every time they
Which is just want to see what other stories are
emphatically
touching on
abused
Gaza.
in Israeli prisons, calling them de facto torture camps. Some
British
violations
news don't need to
include
go near
severe
that at the
physical
moment,
and
man. They're
sexual
too busy with
humiliation,
all
sleep
the,
deprivation,
funnily enough,
and
pro-Israeli
starvation. The number of
entities
Palestinians in Israeli jails has doubled
orchestrating
to
this stuff to keep
9,623
everybody's
since the war began.
eyes off
At
the
least
prize.
was the
So
being
the genocide in Gaza just goes on and it doesn't get talked about. Let's see fucking saggy old men's tits. Thank you very much. Just tell me.
Late afternoon yesterday, they've raided the street over here. They were targeting more of
this today's or last week's or last month's.
I think I'd have replicate most of the information provided to it.
Zain Besravi has more now from Amman.
Israel made the accusations against UN staff for being involved
the staff being involved in the October
The group is still advancing in the eastern DRC after taking the town of Ishasha on the border with Uganda on Sunday. Now, that is despite a ceasefire agreement coming into force on the same day. We're going now to Elaine Wakani, who joins us now from Goma in eastern DRC. And Elaine, the ceasefire has collapsed. M23 rebels are now taking more territory.
Yeah, this is the situation right now on the ground. The M23. We
blame Belgium. Pretty sure Belgium were the old colonial rulers of that country.
More than 12%.
But I do know that the Congo is rich in resources. I can't remember what ones.
But has rebounded by more than 10 over.
I don't think they're going to touch on the UK stuff. Now, I know what's happening in the UK is very UK-centric, you know.
You're watching Al Jazeera, a reminder of our top stories this hour. The military in Bangladesh is working to take control of the country after its long-term Prime Minister
Surely RT's got to stick
and
the
fled
boot in.
to neighbouring India. At least 109 people
Remember,
were
the
killed
owners
in
at Al
violence
Jazeera
on
own
Monday.
Mayfair in
Protesting
London.
student
So they're
leaders
like
are
that with the,
demanding that
they're like
Parliament
that with
is
the
dissolved
royals,
by
the
mid-afternoon.
political class in the UK.
At least 7 Palestinians have been killed during ongoing Israeli raids in the occupied West Bank. 5 of them were killed during multiple Israeli airstrikes in Jenin. And the UN says it has completed its investigation of 19 staff members of UNRWA who Israel accused of being involved in the October 7th attack. Investigators found no or insufficient evidence to support allegations against 10 staff members. They say 9 others may have been involved and their employment has been terminated. US defense officials say several American military personnel have been injured in a suspected rocket attack on an airbase housing US troops in western Iraq. 2 missiles hit the Ain al-Assad base in Anbar province. A fuel supply station inside the facility caught fire. Police say the rockets were launched from a truck. The US soldiers have withdrawn from the last American military base in Niger. That comes more than a year after Niger's army revoked an agreement and told US forces to leave the country. The Sahel nation was home to a major US military base in the desert city of Agadez, used to counter armed groups in the region.
Right. They didn't mention... Oh, right. So this is interesting. So Niger has asked the Americans to fuck off. The Ruskies are getting welcomed with open arms. In fact, the Russians and the Americans were in the same airbase, different sides, but on the same airbase before the Americans left. And now all of a sudden, the whack-a-mole terrorists of Al-Qaeda have bounced up in Niger and kidnapping Russians. Oh man, I wish bookies took bets on stuff like this. An Al-Qaeda affiliate, I think that's like, it's a bit like McDonald's, you know, I think they franchised it. In West Africa area, taking 2 Russian citizens Now, calling them citizens, they would have been there working, extracting whatever minerals and resources Niger has. Working for a Russian company in southwest Nigeria, and they were taken prisoner. It's weird, that, isn't it? It's very weird, that. It's weird, that. Who'd have funked it?
Well, demonstrators in Nigeria have returned to the streets demanding relief from economic hardship. Communication disruptions have been reported in numerous parts of the country. The protesters are demanding a cut in petrol prices and electricity tariffs. Well, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is warning rioters targeting Muslim communities will face the full force of the law as he tries to end days of unrest. Rival groups have clashed in the city of Plymouth in what police describe as sustained violence. The nationwide demonstration started last week after 3 girls were stabbed to death in Southport. Police say social media posts falsely blamed a Muslim immigrant for the attack. The government is urging social media platforms to stop the spread of racial hate. Well, Rory Challens looks at what and who is behind the violence.
They've attacked people, property and the police. And they're responsible for some of the most serious and sustained public violence the UK has seen in a decade. But who are the anti-immigration protesters taking part in riots across the country?
It might be, for example, we saw in Southport, people travelled into Southport, people from these extremist groups, whoever it was. These people were, you know, almost sort of their duty to go up and stand for their nation, in inverted commas, and kind of take to the streets of Southport and riot. So I think what we are seeing is, you know, people from the outside coming in, but then also locals, you know, kind of protesting and rioting in quite violent and reprehensible ways.
A loose, decentralised network of far-right activists are the producers, consumers and sharers of the digital memes and misinformation that have fuelled local anger. They use messaging apps to coordinate protests. Seen as something of a figurehead is Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon. He set up the now disbanded English Defence League and is currently out of the country with a warrant issued for his arrest. But for years, anti-immigration sentiment has been amplified by the UK's right-wing newspapers and was used as a wedge issue by the former Conservative government.
You go for 10 or 15 years having a largely uncontested right-wing and extreme right-wing kind of newspaper media telling their readers that the country is, you know, in desperate straits, and a lot of politicians on the right seeking advantage in that position. That is the whole kind of cocktail against this which is taking place.
We'll ramp up criminal justice. There have already been hundreds of arrests.
It's now Keir Starmer's problem to solve. His challenge is to crack down on the violence and find some way of taking the sting out of the immigration issue that's brought the UK to the brink. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera.
Protesters are vowing to keep fighting until Pakistan's former Prime Minister is freed from jail. It is a year since the arrest and imprisonment of Imran Khan, and thousands have poured into the Swabi district.
I'm not sure when Tommy Robinson changed his name, mate. I'd imagine it would have been around the time he set up the EDL. I don't know what his name was when he was going to BNP meetings and all that, you know. But I mean, why would anybody change their name? It's to try and, you know, you're going to be doing shit that's going to wind people up to the extent where they might want to come after you.
From the southern province of Sindh, from the Punjab.
I'm sorry, man, it's not big, it's not clever, but he's got a funny voice.
The largest show of force is going to be held here in Sawabi. A clear message to the government that their days are now.
As he is our own.
Imran Press will run any corner of the globe that's on fire at the moment.
On Ukrainian positions across all front lines. Ukrainian forces say Russia also fired more than 100 multiple launch rocket systems on troop positions and populated areas. Well, a US federal court has found the search engine Google has been illegally exploiting its dominance to quash competition and stifle innovation. In a case brought by the US Justice Department, a judge ruled Google as, quote, a monopolist. The court heard the company signed multi-billion-dollar contracts to ensure smartphone makers installed Google as their default search engine. Now, the judge says that breached antitrust laws and blocked rivals such.
Danny, I don't know if you're up to speed, mate. Get me up to speed. What charge have they got him on? Is it like breaking conditions, breaking bail or something? Oh, no, was he eating breakfast again? Don't tell me I dared to have breakfast again, man, and they caught him having breakfast again, because we all know you get arrested for eating breakfast in this country.
Microsoft's Bing.
DuckDuckGo! For fuck's sake, I was on the button. Bing and DuckDuckGo.
As a result, Google controls about 90% of the online search market and is the default search engine on 95% of smartphones. US Attorney General Merrick Garland described the judgment as a victory against Google and a historic win for the American people. Google says it will appeal. Well, Omar Gallagher is a writer and contributor to Wired, a technology and culture website. He says the court ruling is likely to affect Google's operations.
It is significant for Google in that it could break up Alphabet. It could break up the parent company of Google that owns search and has 90% of the search market and 95% of the search market in mobile. So it is hugely significant.
Man, that's what you call a monopoly, isn't it?
Company. This could mean
and who complains? Because we all do our research, and we all know that research means reading the first page of Google search results.
Will be for consumers, for people who are using Google search.
We all know
the
that.
Wagons are circling around this idea that these tech companies are not only becoming powerful in and of themselves, everything that we've seen up to this point, but that with AI that they'll be even more powerful. That with Google search plus AI, that it's going to have even more stifling toward competition. So I think that's the fear in these antitrust suits against Meta, against Apple, against Google, is that AI is looming over all of it. Google's argument is people prefer Google. People prefer to use Google for search. When given the choice, even if it's not the default browser, they would choose Google. I question whether consumers are the winners here or Microsoft.
I know why I do it. It's because it's what I'm used to,
competitor to Google.
I know where the buttons are. I know how to work it.
Comes even close. DuckDuckGo.
And I was under the impression that a lot of all the other search engines like DuckDuckGo and all that kind of used the Google algo. They just act like an in-betweeny.
Microsoft has done things like pay users to use it. They have incorporated it into their Windows operating system. They have really pushed Bing.
I use QuackQuackGo.
Don't want to use it. They want to use Google search.
Well, Cambodia's Prime Minister has
I use a
dog
with
the start of work on a $1.7 billion canal connecting the capital, Phnom Penh, to the coast. But questions remain about who is funding it and the environmental impact on the Mekong River. Tony Cheng has more.
North Korea.
Excitement and cheers along the banks of the Mekong River for the inauguration of the Funan Techo Canal. Master of Ceremonies, Prime Minister Hun Manet. The construction of a deep-water canal from the capital Phnom Penh directly to the Gulf of Thailand, a project proposed by his father, Hun Sen.
Right. Since it is the big, grand national project, a legitimate project, I am sure that the government will do it and complete it by all means at all costs, because that is the legitimacy. Especially for the new generation of leadership.
But there are other questions about the legitimacy of the project that remain unanswered. Residents living along the 180-kilometre route of the canal
going to change trade
have been told they'll have to move
in a way that Doha
about the compensation they'll receive.
Pretty sure if he shows a map, might get a
I
better
feel empty
idea.
inside. We are losing the place where we lived in happiness. There has been no problem living here. A new location won't be like the place we were used to.
It's also unclear who'll bear the cost of $1.7 billion. The project comes under the auspices of China's Belt and Road Initiative.
China, that's why they don't like it.
Stated that 51% of the funding is coming
It's not. It doesn't take long to figure out what the hell is going on. So this is part of the new Silk Road, One Belt, One Road initiative to link China with Western Europe and all the countries that it goes through. And this is obviously the part of the seafaring trade.
Coming from Cambodian firms. And neighbouring countries have expressed concerns about the environmental impact of the canal.
If they can manage the active floodplain around the canal, then it's possible that the environmental and social impacts to Cambodia and to Vietnam are potentially small. But we just don't know enough about the project right now to make that judgment.
Vietnam's particularly worried about further drainage of fresh water from the Mekong Delta and the impact that will have on
Vietnam, under the influence of the Yankee Doodle Dandies, aren't happy about China's infrastructure projects increasing their grip on world trade.
Millions of farmers and fishermen who rely on the river downstream. Tony Chang, Al Jazeera.
Well, that's all for me, Tom.
That's the worst shit they can say about it, man. It's not really...
A call from the Russian defense minister to the Pentagon. That was revealed by Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov.
We have avoided a new round of escalation. The call from our military leadership, and namely the defense minister to his American counterpart, had an effect. That particular...
Pontiac... Oh, hold on. Pontiac, see the Opera one? I don't know who owns it, but I use Firefox. And that's got a built-in VPN if you want to use it. I use it to get onto Pirate Bay. Because Virgin blocks that here in the UK, you know, we are internet freedoms. And it sits there. I can turn it on when and as I want. It's free for a few. For those are the free locations. Like you can see the premium ones, you need to pay money. But the other ones, all good. And you can switch it on and off as easy as that when you are and are not going between browsers. But remember, it's only a VPN for your browser, so it just allows you to, it allows people in the UK who have Virgin to get on Pirate Bay.
The case was very disturbing. They planned to inflict maximum damage and get the maximum media.
I really don't need to hide any of my online activity, man. There's nothing I need to hide. I'm not looking at how to blow people up or how to fucking... The only thing that I need to hide is when I want to go on Pirate Bay. And I'm hiding it so much that I'm saying I'm doing it live. Damn, for fuck's sake, man, the amount of streaming services you need to play for nowadays. So I get all the good Apple TV and other shit that isn't on Netflix and Prime. That's the only things I'm going to put that I'm paying for.
The effect they needed.
They planned something during the Navy parade.
I won't delve into details, but there were such
Alphabet
plans.
Inc. is
It's
owned by
crazy.
Larry Page.
As
And
we've
Sergey
heard,
Brin?
this was
Sergey Brin sounds
an
Russian.
uncovered plot to attack the naval parade in St. Petersburg at the end of July.
Pontiac, the VPN I got there. I don't even know what's it called. Brosec. I can't even remember the name of it. But how the fuck did I get it? Firefox add-ons VPN. I can't even remember how you add these now. So I'm out. Oh, there it's there. That's it there. Free VPN for Firefox. That's the one I got. So it's as easy as that, mate. Boom, and it's in your browser. If you use it, if you're going to use it 24/7, it just slows everything down because it needs to go to fucking Singapore or whatever and then relay the information. see what the Ruskies
now,
are saying.
when this plot was discovered, it led to a rare high-level phone conversation between Russia and America's respective defence ministers. Now, of course, such a plot, the carnage would have been unimaginable. The naval parade, of course, high numbers of military personnel there, civilians watching the parade, families and children, and of course, the intended targets of this assassination.
Oh, there's that. I don't do it much, to be honest, Pontiac, right? But you could obviously do this. Change. I don't know if does America free. Oh, United States is free, aye. So you could fuck off the United States and your VPN, fire up your Prime, fire up your Netflix, etc., and you would get all sorts of different stuff.
Attempt was the Russian President Vladimir Putin. All, of course, played out live on air. Of course, this would have been a spectacular coup for the Ukrainians, but Russia was so concerned that it raised this directly with Washington. Now, we know the New York Times reported on this, a telephone conversation apparently taking place back on July the 12th. Now, it's not clear whether Washington knew of the planned attack in advance. This was something that the New York Times said it wasn't aware of, but of course the United States was so concerned that it contacted Kiev direct.
Oh shit. I know why that is. It's because I've fucking left the VPN on and it.
12th. Now, it's not clear whether Washington knew of the planned attack in advance. This was something that the New York Times said it wasn't aware of, but of course the United States was so concerned that it contacted Kiev directly and the plot was averted.
Can I put it to you, Steve, that this is shocking, but perhaps not surprising totally?
That Ukraine has openly boasted about its desire to assassinate the Russian President Vladimir Putin. We've even seen articles carried in the Western press speculating whether such an attack would be justified. Now, Ukraine again has carried out a series of terror attacks. It's the assassinations, as we know, perhaps.
Look at the outlets they're naming here. They may be all very reputable outlets, but I've not heard of one of them.
The most notorious was the car bombing which killed Daria Dugina in the Moscow region. The attack again on Vladimir Tatarsky, the journalist who was killed in a cafe in St. Petersburg, and the attempted assassination of Zahar Prilepin, which fortunately was unsuccessful. And we've seen the series of attacks on the Kerch Bridge in Crimea, for example. Ukrainian intelligence chief Budanov, well, he's justified such attacks, and he's described these individuals as not civilians. He's described them as legitimate targets. Of course, we've mentioned 3 journalists there. Journalists are protected under international law. The deliberate targeting of journalists is a war crime. Now,
let's see. I just got a wee news alert for the BBC. Right, so is he going to be white, brown or black? What do you reckon? Police say they're treating the incident as a racially motivated hate crime. 6 people were appearing in court in Sheffield. Extra prison spaces. It's amazing, isn't it, when things like this happen? They're throwing prisoners out because there isn't enough spaces and something like this happens. Like, just pluck some extra spaces out their arsehole. It's like, you're skint, man, fucking cost of living crisis, the war we are in Ukraine. There's a couple of bill. Amazing. So 10:27. So the latest update is that dude. That's the only details the BBC's have got. I'm going to put my money on him being brown. Right, it's man serious condition after hate crimes. People stamped on a man's head in an attack. Members of the public in Donegal and Oban Street. He's been hospitalised. The crowd, several dozen strong, threw bricks and petrol bombs, so it's the far-right protesters, isn't it? So it's the anti-immigrant mob. It was named marauding Asian gangs catching a white cunt. Police said they fired 2 energy projectiles, striking the rioter on the hand and arrested a 15-year-old. There is never justification for this type of violent behaviour. But hey, at least it's not the Proddies ripping the Catholics apart, it's just a different brand of religious hatred. You know, so like, we don't want to get rid of religious hatred, we just need to rebrand it and go after the other mob.
Kiev itself has, it's remained silent on the latest revelations, but the Russian
I'm nervous about the night, man. Rangers playing
she's gone
Kiev.
as far as to accuse Washington of creating the ground for such attacks.
Through massive financing and the uncontrolled supply of weapons, Washington has created a terrorist structure in Ukraine, the Kiev regime. It is a machine of murders, bombings, destruction, and terrorist attacks against both political figures and civilians.
Ukraine often boasts about the kind of terror attacks that it's carried out, but when those plots are foiled, it either remains silent or often it backtracks. But Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky now, well, he's been critical of Ukraine's Western allies for not wanting to escalate to a full-scale war with Russia.
Western nations are always concerned about possible escalation. We are fighting against that. We will work on it.
So Kiev's desperation on the battlefield, where it's losing ground, makes it more and more desperate to drag its allies into direct conflict with Russia.
Well, we got reaction to this. Former senior security analyst in the Office of the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Michael Maloof, says the thwarted terror attack planned by Kiev would have contradicted the instructions Ukraine gets from its overseas sponsor.
I think it definitely shows the influence the U.S. has over Ukraine if they were in fact able to abort and avert such an attempt, number one. But number two, the desire by the United States for Ukraine to hit structures were aimed most only at military structures, but also and even in a limited area. It wasn't to go after the leadership of Russia. And you'll recall that there was some drone attempts on the Kremlin itself some months ago. But the question is, where's the trail? And I think that is something.
Is that the wee guys that get cut in the head?
Deeply unhelpful that people have tried to frame a narrative. We have seen far too often in the past, in the instances which have resulted in deadly deaths.
I mean, this won't wind people up further. What's that song for the 90s I used to love, man? Kaiser Chiefs. I predict the riots! I predict the riots! Somebody should go down with a ghetto blaster or a boombox. Nah, I'm not showing mage. And start fucking playing that, man. I predict the riots! I predict the riots!
Why is
You're watching Sky News and a news conference from Manchester. Just an apology there for the language being used to be protecting women's sport.
It went on to get pretty.
Dismantle the ring. Rob, on me that's coming up this evening. We'll bring you all the action as it happens. In the meantime, in the wake of the riots across the country, the tech billionaire Elon Musk has been goading the Prime Minister using the Home Minister.
Trolling them!
Bloody results in attendance.
Right, that was fake.
The besieged hotel.
Is reading out a Tom's report.
Breaking news.
We'll bring you more of Tom's report later in the programme. But to Manchester now, where the solicitor Amar Anwar is reading out a statement on behalf of the family of the man who was involved in an incident at Manchester Airport last month, where a police officer kicked and stamped on his head. As you can see, the footage has frozen, but I think we can bring you the audio.
And just to let you know, there will be an electronic copy of this, so for some of you whose hand is not so good, there'll be an electronic copy sent to you.
A better mobile phone, man, to stream it.
And I would appreciate, for security purposes, with what is happening, that if people could avoid tweeting until the end of the press conference, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, look down and sad. Think they got the old mo to go for some makeup, but we need to use those sad bags to our advantage here.
Thank you. I want all copies for the end of the press conference.
Buy shares in super glue before the UK goes to war.
Good morning, my name is Amar Anwar. I'm instructed as the lawyer with a team of lawyers to make this statement on behalf of the family of Fahir Amaz, who is sat on my left, Mohammed Ahmad, who is sat on my right.
I'll stay. Hasdak, I'm of the same opinion of you, but just for my own kind of understanding of it, it's like see a VPN, your internet service provider might not know the traffic that you're going to because you're using somebody in between. But do you know who does know and who's got the data on how you're using the internet? The VPN company. They exactly said for all the antivirus stuff, the Norton to McAfee, used to come onto your computer back in the day, and you would be so paranoid you would stick it on and all that. And then I remember I fucking clocked McAfee, this is years ago, the creator of that antivirus software on Alex Jones. Ah, man, it's a small world. So Hasdak, I'm like you. I think not only does it slow your computer down, it doesn't really protect you against any shit. It's just it's just gathering data on how you use your computer. Not only that, you give it permission to scan all your files. Not that you've got anything to hide, but if you're sitting there with like illegally downloaded fucking films and all that, it will scan your files and go, right, there's no antivirus there, but I now know what your file is, report that back to McAfee. He's now got data that he can sell to third parties to market you, to improve their algorithms, yada 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 yada. And anyway, I ran over, man. Let's get back to the show.
And their mother Shamim Akhtar, who is on my immediate right, and their family in respect of the incident at Manchester Airport on Tuesday, the 23rd of July 2024. This incident has given rise to active criminal and disciplinary investigations by Greater Manchester Police and the IOPC. The overlap between these proceedings increases any risk of prejudice if information or material is inappropriately disclosed in the investigations or to the public. The family have been placed in a difficult position as they had hoped that the IOPC would be allowed to do its job without interference. Sadly, it has been clear over the last 2 weeks that there has been a deliberate attempt to smear the family and portray incomplete version of events and thus potentially prejudice proceedings. There has been...
So let's see. Does anybody remember me saying exactly this? Exactly this. All the idiots on social media parroting lies, but whatever. They're all given before there's been a conviction. That's why the mainstream TV media and newspapers haven't went near it, because they understand the consequences of interfering with legal processes. It then gives scumbags tools in their bag for their lawyer to use to wriggle out of it, because it can miss trial, can't get a fair trial everywhere. You can't get a jury that's going to be unbiased and all that. And then this has happened in the past. People getting let off, people know they're guilty and whatnot, but because the idiots can't hold their wisht, it's like all those pedo hunters and all that as well. If you catch a paedophile, fucking bag and tag all the information, take it to the cops, instead of live streaming it with the guy's name and address and all sorts of stupid shit, which again will give those pedos tools in their box for their lawyers to argue to get them off of these charges. But nah, because it's all virtue signalling, unthinking, I want hits and clicks people online.
Repeated use of the word context when the family have been given no opportunity to provide this. The family have been subjected to horrific racist and Islamophobic abuse on social media, and there has been a campaign of disinformation in an attempt to justify alleged police violence. As far as we are aware, there have been no proactive attempts by the GMP to monitor or to investigate the further hate crimes perpetrated against this family. I have now spoken to Catherine Bates.
DJ, are you being serious? Did he get a community guideline strike or something over his Venezuela push? I noticed he was getting involved, but I just see it in passing and I'm like, oh, it's just him being a twat again. But it's interesting to see the topics he's talking about, you know. It's pretty much what InfoWars and all that are saying. He's got a wee bit of Scottish twang. Didn't he? I'm pretty sure that he's a Glaswegian dude. His name rings a bell. Like one of the famous Asian lawyers up here. SW Radio Mesh Network.
The regional director for the IOPC.
Zibby Zab. They have been charged. They're out on bail. That's why the mainstream media, they're not hiding it. They're not talking about it because there's an active legal process going on, which you can hear everybody jibber-jabbering about it, is now giving this fucking lawyer some tools in his box to try and get these cunts wriggle out the charges. But no, don't think about that. Just wrap it up in fucking blind brown man hate spreaded by a guy sitting in fucking Cyprus who couldn't give a flying fuck whether these guys get charged or not. Or about police brutality, unless it's a riot police guy pushing a rioter with a shield and I'm falling on his bum. Oh, it's hilarious, man. I saw footage of what happened. They attacked first. What a lot of shite. They did attack the cops and all that, right? Definitely. There's no doubt about that. My point being, people's bumping their gums about it. All the shit on social media, all the crap that they're getting and the real smears, the old smears, and whatever. This lawyer has witnessed breaking news happening here, exactly what I said would happen. They're trying to use all that to call for a mistrial or there can't be any justice and all that, and it wouldn't be the first time that worked on, what do you guys get, judges or magistrates? This is such a bullcrap charge. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't go to the High Court. It'll be Magistrates Court. Maybe it's so high profile it'll go to the High Court. I doubt it right enough. Up here we would send them to the sheriff.
With regards to lodging a formal complaint against officers from Greater Manchester Police. We intend in the coming weeks to meet with the director, but also
and they're released on bail.
A meeting with the Mayor, Andy Burnham, if he is actually interested in...
I'll repeat. They've been charged with what? I don't know. I've not heard the details or forgot the details. They're out on bail. I'd imagine it will be police assault. They're out on bail, waiting fucking for the trial or whatnot to happen. And in the meantime, the sensible people out there aren't talking about an active legal fucking process. Not because they're trying to hide brown man crime, but because we want a fair trial and not to give anybody any wriggle room to wriggle out of any charges. And the double standards coming from social media bubbles about what happened for the last 6 days in a row and hitting the cops with bricks and all that kind of jazz to what these guys done. And let's see if this Glaswegian dude gives us any more context.
I will firstly set out today some of the context of what the family alleges happened that day, followed by a list of concerns and requests they wish to make public. The deliberate attempt by some within Greater Manchester Police or so-called police sources to present a version of events to the media in the immediate aftermath, and then to claim publicly that they're cooperating with the IOPC investigation is deeply unhelpful and can be seen as nothing more than a deliberate and cynical attempt to manipulate and mould a narrative of events and untruths. The family has many serving police officers and believe the actions of these officers do not represent their many colleagues who do a difficult job day in, day out. The family wish to put on record that if the two young men sat next to me and seen on video and stand accused of criminality, their family fully support that they must face robust, due legal process. But the family also wish to state that they know more than many other families that the police play a...
Cardini, I'm in the same page as you, buddy. The cops should have remained or been able to remain professional, even in the face of them two attacking their colleagues. Right? Because do you want to know why? That's what they train for. They don't get any extra money, I don't believe, the armed response motherfuckers in the UK. They just go through extra training. You know, and if you're bouncing about with tasers, and I'm pretty sure they had guns as well, hence being armed response, and it's an airport, they would have had fucking pop things as well. And the last thing you want is people who are armed response units to be capable of losing their shit. Even at the most stressful situation, even if these two guys had AK-47s and were like, brrrr, shooting it from the hip, you would still like to think, in fact, you would still need the police to act professionally, not lose their shit and start running into a hail of bullets and stuff, you know? But each to their own, man. They're going to get done for police assault, and getting done with police assault carries a heavy charge, man.
A crucial role in our society and police with the consent of the people, and that it is precisely why, when they get it so badly wrong, that they must be held to account. Equally, when they get it right, the police should be praised, and the family wish to place on record their thanks to the police, who for days have had to face right-wing racist thugs causing violent disorder and spreading fear across England. But it will be clear to many who have watched the horrific violence over the last few days that despite repeated attempts to harm police officers, despite the grotesque and often deadly violence they faced, the missiles, the punches thrown, the arson, the wanton violence they were subjected to, that police officers have not been provoked and taken the law into their own hands. In our democracy, we have the right to expect that those in uniform will not act as thugs and will act within the law, and that any force used must be reasonable, legitimate and proportionate. The two young men sat here today, along with their mother and family, are left devastated and traumatised by the incident at Manchester Airport. Despite the clear attempt by some to place disinformation in the media and on social media, the young men sat next to me do not have a single criminal conviction, not even a speeding ticket. In fact, members of the family are serving police officers with Greater Manchester Police and other members of the family in other areas of the country.
Well, I'm glad they cleared that up, because part of the shit spam I seen was, they're a drug dealer, guess what, he's this, he's that, you're that, blah. And again, just the fake news coming from the people who complain about fake fucking news. And when they get caught peddling fucking fake shite, what did they do? Did they stand up like a man and own it? No, they just move on to the next brown man smear fucking campaign.
And Ahmad himself has undergone an interview process to join the GMP. Today is about setting the record straight and issuing a warning to Greater Manchester Police that leaking or using so-called police sources to justify alleged criminality by their officers can only be seen as a deliberate attempt to interfere with the IOPC investigation. I want to start now with what sparked the incident, something that we have heard nothing about to date.
Ooh.
Mrs. Shamim Akhtar was travelling back from a holiday in Pakistan. She was feeling unwell on the plane and as a result used the empty seat next to her to be able to sit more comfortably. Shortly after making use of the seat, she could hear a male muttering in the row behind her. At first, she paid no attention, but then the male went out of his way over the course of the next several hours to subject her to a tirade of alleged racial abuse. He repeatedly called her a bitch, he used the P word and referred to her as a P bitch. Mrs. Akhtar...
Come on, fuck, man. There's adults in the room. I do not want to stay in a world where people refer to people saying nigger as the N-word, or people who are using the word packy, the P word. See, then, in the future, any word that's deemed to be unpalatable, we'll all start walking about, go A word to the B word to the C word to the G word to the... We won't even be able to speak fucking non-English. And he's going on about context. Well, the context that guy was using it is clearly like you would never use that in a fucking... I would never use that to another human being. But I'm not going to sit there and speak about somebody using the word packy and go, the P word. I suppose he's just hedging his bet, man, but come on, fuck, this is meant to be a lawyer. So when he goes into court and people are disclosing what's happening, they're going, well, he said the P word to the F word to the N word to the P word to the F word. Oh, I just find that highly annoying and amusing at the same time.
Several hours of the flight was scared the male was going to become physical and assault her. Despite her appeals to the Qatar Airlines cabin crew, they did nothing to intervene. She appealed to the male to calm down, but he refused to listen, despite telling him she was unwell. The male began to call her a P bitch again, and the male stood up behind her. He was towering over her and hurling abuse. It was a mixture of abuse in English and in Arabic. At this point,
he's a
she became
Rangers
increasingly frightened and intimidated.
No, mate, I read on Tommy Robinson's Twitter that he was a Partick Thistle fan. Okay.
He was over 6 foot tall and was of large build. The male's wife intervened and told him to stop and asked him to sit down. However, the male continued.
Well, I'd imagine what kind of social media bubbles he hangs about in.
And his children were also ridiculing Mrs. Akhtar. Even though she was feeling extremely unwell, she forced herself up and walked to the rear of the plane looking for a seat. She sat down at the back on a random street, however was told to move pretty much straight away as somebody else was assigned to the seat. She had no choice but to come back to a seat and sit down, and the abuse continued for several hours. The male continued to intimidate her by shouting racist abuse and by being...
Do you have... I don't know, I see you feel what that's got to do with these guys beating up the cops, but we'll get there. This just seems to be the sympathy card, you know what I mean? I'd imagine a lawyer, and this guy is a well-respected lawyer. Well-respected lawyer up here, man. A lot of... I remember him, he's represented famous people before. I know these people aren't famous, but it's a very high-profile case, isn't it? Anywho.
Being a bully. Once the flight landed, Mrs. Akhtar says she walked off the plane and walking towards the baggage claim area, she felt something hit her hand luggage and hitting her behind. She looked back and saw the male standing behind her, and from what she could make out,
because I was listening to Bob Marley, I didn't run to the police and shout racism.
Mrs. Akhtar began to cry. She was extremely traumatized. She was scared, she was upset and stressed, and she even collected the wrong suitcase, which she did not realize until she eventually got home that evening. As soon as she exited at the arrivals, she saw her 2 sons and a six-year-old grandson, waiting for her.
So, these 2 guys started on the fucking guy. Right, so I'm getting where he's coming from now.
Broke down into tears and told them that what happened to her over the last several hours, and Mrs. Akhtar's sons questioned her, which was Fahir and Ahmad, as to what had happened and who this male was. She told her sons that the cabin...
She made a bad decision then, didn't she? You know, she might as well have just... Oh, fuck, she might as well just pointed, maybe she did, to the guy coming off the plane. And these two look like they went and set about him. Or that's what my best guess is at the moment. But this is getting interesting.
Crew had failed to assist her. She wanted to leave, but when they walked past Starbucks, she noticed the male in question, and Mrs. Actor froze. Both her sons approached the male and questioned him regarding the abuse. The male was rude and proceeded to laugh in her son's face, and an altercation took place. Following this, the family left Starbucks and headed towards the car park. When they got to the car park, Fahir was paying for the parking. I will summarise some of the details because of the ongoing investigation, but police officers, who were two females and a male, approached Fahir, and then, without identifying themselves, immediately grabbed Fahir by the wrist. And I have seen, and many of you will have seen, the footage that has been broadcast by the Manchester Evening News, some of it heavily pixelated, but the context...
Right, so that's the story about what happened before the guys up. That's when you see the footage starts, doesn't it, kicking off when he's obviously at one of those stupid machines. It didn't identify themselves. The police uniform might have helped, you know, but a lawyer being a fucking lawyer.
What the family wishes to provide is that if you watch closely the footage, that Fahir is immediately grabbed by the wrist, as can be seen on the CCTV. The male officer proceeds to grab Fahir by the neck, and it is alleged that he hits Fahir's head into the ticket machine, at which point the other son, Ahmad, asked the police officer to move his hand from Fahir's neck, as he was not resisting arrest. Ahmad and his mother, Shamim, were shocked at the unnecessary aggression and alleged violence shown from the start. There was no immediate attempt to speak to Fahir, to ask him to step aside, to caution him, or to simply say, "Can we speak to you for a second?"
Right, let's have a wee look at this footage. Right, so that's it here.
Footage shows
Right, so that's him at the machine.
three police officers.
So they're both in uniform.
A male. They try to restrain him, but
he did hit his head against. It did look like he hit his head against the machine.
The situation turns violent.
Is that the guy that kicks him in the head at the end?
Officers are assaulted, including a female who's punched in the face. Then an individual appears to have been tasered before falling on the ground, as he's finally restrained. This appears to be the chaotic lead-up to the widely circulated footage on Tuesday evening at Manchester Airport.
It was the guy that got decked.
Kicking and stamping.
It was the guy that got decked. Did you spot that there?
On the floor. Appears to have been
right, so this guy over here, this is the guy that ends up doing the booting. He's took a beating and gets hit to the ground.
Including a female
he's getting pummeled
in the face. Then an individual appears to have been tasered before falling on the ground, as he's finally restrained.
And then he gets done in again for the back there.
This appears to be the chaotic lead-up to the widely circulated footage from Tuesday evening.
And then he gets up after being decked, bang.
Which showed a police officer kicking and stamping on a man's head as he lay face down on the floor. 4 men were arrested. But the police's actions led to an outcry and protests.
What? He's no looting or anything?
Greater Manchester
Police
said
an
officer had been suspended and that they had referred themselves to the IO.
Now, is this two-tier policing, or is this policing the crowd appropriately? Doesn't look like a big bunch of football casuals intent on violence to me.
OPC,
it's like
the police
Jesus sandal-wearing hippies, and a lot of women in hijabs and shit.
Complicated than it initially appeared. Greater Manchester Police say they are appealing for witnesses in relation to 3 incidents that evening. The first is an altercation between passengers from Qatar Airways flight QR023. The altercation may have taken place during the flight or afterwards in the Terminal 2 baggage hall.
That's them
The second
squaring off
incident
against
is
each
a
other.
violent altercation involving members of the public in Terminal 2 Starbucks.
Oh,
The third incident is the assault of 3 police officers, which occurred in the Terminal 2 car park pay point.
Right, that's what we're watching there. So the lawyer has skipped over what happened in Starbucks, interestingly enough.
The family appreciates you have seen leaked footage with pixelation of the top of vital events as they unfold. However, this is what the context of what took place. When Ahmad asked the police officer to remove his neck hold, it is alleged by him and his mother and others that the male officer then proceeded to punch Ahmad twice in the side of his head, at which point Ahmad falls onto the ground. Mrs. Akhtar also falls to the ground as the officer pulls her and Ahmad down due to the fact that she was holding Ahmad from behind. The officer, whilst punching Ahmad, pushes her to the ground, and she looked up and saw the officer firing his taser at Ahmad, at which point she screamed, "They've killed my son," in Urdu. And as you can see from the CCTV, pandemonium breaks loose at that point. At this point, Mrs. Akhtar, seeing Fahir running towards the officer and saw that he is also tasered from behind and lands face first, at which point the officer falls down with him. Mrs. Akhtar then goes to Fahir and can be seen leaning over her son as he lies motionless on the ground. The taser that is used is a prohibited firearm and licensed by police officers to use, and it can emit up to 50,000 volts of electricity. At no point do you see on the video Fahir reaching for any officer's firearms, as is later claimed in the immediate press release from the GMP, nor is he in fact doing anything other than lying motionless face down. It is at this point, as the officer stands up, he proceeds to run and kick Fahir in the face.
Kicks the guy in the face who just threw him to the ground, you know, it's like a street fight. So I kind of stand by what I said initially, in the sense that the way those two guys acted, man, it was out of order. They obviously turned the fucking whole thing up to 11. But the police should have acted professionally. But the guy had just got a good few jabs by the fat one. Then the thin one had huckled him from behind, threw him to the ground. Then the thin one gets tasered, and the fact that the guy at copper gets up and like, "Oh, there's the cunt that just threw me to the ground, whack!"
Mrs. Akhtar then tried to pull her son's head away, and as the officer then attempts to stamp on his head,
they should have handled it better than he
in the
definitely.
graphic video at this point. Both brothers are compliant. Fahir is incapacitated. His brother is sat some distance behind on a seat with his hands on his head, with officers keeping him under control. The officer then proceeds to lift his foot up and appears to stamp down on Fahir's head. Mrs. Akhtar states that she attempted to pull her son's head away as she thought the officer could have killed her son at this point. She genuinely believed at this point that her son was dying as he was limp and unresponsive due to being tasered. The male is alleged, as seen in the video, then kneels down, the male officer, kneels down on Fahir, placing his knee on his back whilst he is still limp, and then looks up straight at Mrs. Akhtar whilst he has his knee on Fahir's back, and he is not moving. At this point, it is alleged that the male officer still has his taser drawn, then using his right hand, it is alleged, he strikes Mrs. Akhtar directly in the face using his taser as a weapon. At this point, Mrs. Akhtar never, prior to this or during that point.
Let's see if we can see that. So does this footage cut away before I think it cuts away at the kick, not the aftermath. And then kneels. Oh, he's kind of blocked, but you could kind of see him. You could kind of see that. Who knows?
Is presenting any threat to any police officer. At this point, Mrs. Akhtar screams. As she holds her face, she is terrified that she would now be subjected to the same violence as she alleges her son would. This is the bruising that Mrs. Akhtar had on her face. You'll get copies of this at the end of the press conference. But this is the bruising, some of which you can still see on Mrs. Akhtar's face today. She was left bleeding from below her eye. This is what Mrs. Actor alleged she was subjected to, and at no point did any officer approach Mrs. Actor to check on her well-being or her welfare. At no point did anybody seek to get medical assistance for Mrs. Actor. And as she screamed, as I state, she thought that she would now face the same violence as her two sons did. Mrs. Actor then held her face, as well as holding onto her son Fire. She noticed the officer walked off behind her, and she was scared that this officer would attack her from behind. She looked back and noticed that he then pointed his taser at her other son Ahmad, who was sat down with his hands on his head and was complying. Even though she had been attacked, she struggled and stood up. And so the same officer that had allegedly attacked her and her son Fire then proceeded to kick her son Ahmad and drag him down on the floor and use his taser as a weapon to hit her son on his head. Another officer then sat on top of Ahmad and pinned his head down to the floor and proceeded to threaten him. At this point, Mrs. Actor just stood up between her sons who are lying on the floor. And at this point,
is that two-tier policing?
6-year-old grandson.
Think that would have happened to little fucking Billy Bob Thornton, white man, and his bro, and his mom.
Touches her face and noticed she was bleeding from a cheek underneath her left eye. She was stood there and didn't want to leave her sons, as she was genuinely feared for their lives. And she then noticed the officer that kicked Fire in the head go over and she tells him to stop. At this point, the officer tells her to step back, and then a female officer pushes her away as she is moving away. Another female officer then comes behind her and pushes her back, pushing her back away again. She was left dazed, she was crying, she was disoriented, but noticed the two officers with Ahmad roll him over onto his front, and at this point he was handcuffed from the rear, and now they were kneeling on his chest. The officer then grabbed Ahmad by the neck and pushed his head into the floor before then getting him up and taking him away. She then sees the other officer lift Fire and also take him away. No officer attended to her injuries. She was bleeding from beneath her eye. No officer approached her to see if she or her 6-year-old grandchild, left with luggage strewn everywhere and clearly distressed child crying for his father, required any assistance. Mrs. Actor was ultimately helped by a passerby who saw what happened and taken home. Fire also heard the scream from his mother, which he believes was when his mother was hit in the eye with the front of the taser gun. At this point, he has no idea where he was or what was going on, or he was picked up, but he was dragged out and placed against the wall outside. Fire states that he broke down into tears and the verbal abuse continued. Then it is alleged that the male officer came and kneeled down next to Ahmad, and it is alleged he said to him, "You dirty fucking cunt. You think you can hit my officers? I'm going to kill you when I see you in my uniform or out." These are the allegations that Ahmad and members of the family make. Hearing this, Fahir said to the officer,
"Could be true, who knows?"
You're watching Sky News and a news conference from Manchester. Just an apology there for the language being used. Obviously, we're not
because you said the word cunt. Why didn't you say the C word? So you won't say packy, but you'll say cunt. What a cunt.
That we do apologise for you. This is a live feed from the news conference.
Calm down there, Shirley, man.
To Manchester Airport. Just a warning that
is the
you may
UK.
hear further such language, and again, any apologies for that is broadcast.
Throws him face down on the floor and puts all his weight on top of him with a knee over his neck. He then says something along the lines of, it is alleged, "Do you want my camera on now, you dirty cunt?" At this point, fearing for his life, all Fahir claims he is thinking about is that he is going to be killed. He stays quiet and doesn't say a word. There is, of course, much more alleged incidents and verbal abuse that takes place that should be on CCTV or police cameras, if they were, of course, switched on. In terms of the requests that we wish to make of the IOPC and Greater Manchester Police, firstly, as stated previously, we expect all CCTV and police body cam footage to be retained. The family is aware that all police body cams of those arresting and detaining officers were not active on that day at the time of the incident, and asked the question, why?
Why?
Secondly, our armed officers are highly trained professionals expected to take split-second decisions.
Exactly. highly trained individuals. That guy lost his shirt big style, man. Started punching old woman in the face, tasering people left, right, centre.
Which can have the power of life and death, but quite rightly they are expected to justify the decisions they take. Carrying a
and
gun
I'll repeat, women should not be on the front line for lots of reasons, just their
or to escape
physical.
3. When a laser or power spray is used,
and the sexual tension they would bring to the front line,
potentially lethal weapons. And when discharged, the police body cam should automatically be engaged prior to their use, during their discharge, and afterwards. If officers had switched off their body cams, it begs the question why. There is a reason why body cams were introduced in this country, in order to protect police officers from spurious allegations, but also to protect members of the public from disproportionate violence. If officers had nothing to fear, then they had nothing to fear by keeping their body cams on. We also seek to understand on what legal basis the Mayor, Andy Burnham, was shown the complete CCTV and by whom. The repeated attempts by so-called police sources to spin a false narrative or partial context is deeply unhelpful to an IOPC investigation. Leaked footage, of course, does not show exactly what the police did, how the incident began, or the full conduct of the officers in the aftermath of the incident or all parts of the airport, including after the arrests. 5, the family and the legal representatives should have been the first individuals provided with the opportunity to view the footage before any politician. As for the leaking of the CCTV, we understand that will also form part of the investigation of the IOPC. But whilst it may be blatantly obvious who would benefit from such a cynical and partial leak, proving who the individual or institution is likely to prove impossible. 6, I'm aware that Andy Burnham was shown the CCTV before even the IOPC was. 7, we are aware that the GMP issued a press release in the aftermath, which senior officers, we asked the question, which senior officer authorised this? When I suspect officers will not even have made a statement on legal advice. As to how this version of events was formed, we asked the GMP, how did they come to that consideration? When they are self-referring already to the IOPC. And the question that continually arises in cases such as this is, were officers placed in a room together? Were they allowed to confer? Were they allowed to meet? Were they allowed to discuss situations? Because it was many, many hours later that the officer at the centre of this alleged conduct was suspended. Which senior officer took control of the situation? Who was Gold Command? What were the Gold Command notes? Where is the radio frequencies of what was happening? Where is the CCTV of absolutely everything that went on? That, as far as it's concerned for Andy Burnham and any other individual that wants to commentate in armchair media commentators, is actually the full context of what's going on. And that is why we find it deeply unhelpful that people have tried to frame a narrative. We have seen far too often in the past, in the incidents which have resulted in deadly deaths, whether it be John Charles de Menges at
See you later, Denny. Have a nice day, my man.
Several years later,
enjoy your
we find out that the facts as alleged by the police turn out not to be true. We saw that in many deaths in police custody. At a high security airport, access to CCTV would be in a highly secure area for obvious reasons, with limited access. There would be an audit trail, or should be, of every police officer or civilian with access to CCTV material. There will be cameras in the CCTV control room, and we expect all material relating to the incident and cameras of the aftermath to be retained, especially those where detainees were taken to in other areas of the airport. If individuals, whether it be Ahmad or whether it be Fahir, are dragged outward into areas that are outward of cameras, the IOPC and the GMP should be asking those officers, what exactly are you doing? Why are you taking them to parts of the airport where it is alleged there are no cameras, there are no CCTV? We also wish to know whether any of the detention officers attended the CCTV room, or indeed their colleagues, and for what policing purpose. Was it legitimate? Were they authorised to do so?
Oh man, this sounds like one big shit show, doesn't it?
Allowed them to do so. Number 10, following a press release by my office last week, raising concerns at the failure to investigate an alleged hate crime against Mrs. Actor and the failure to detain the alleged perpetrator.
BBC will be too scared about the
actual day of the incident. On Tuesday, the 30th of July, A week later, a chief inspector from Greater Manchester Police contacted us to arrange an interview with Mrs. Actor. As far as the family concerned, it was too little and too late. 11. Why did the police at GMP not consider what had caused the initial altercation at Manchester Airport? Why had they left a distraught victim of racism lying on the ground, bleeding from an injury allegedly inflicted by a police officer? No statement was taken from Mrs. Actor until last Tuesday. GMP confirmed to me a few days ago that following investigation, they believed there was insufficient evidence for a realistic prospect of conviction. The individual, who we understand to be a Kuwaiti national, will be allowed to return home today after having had his holiday. Mrs. Actor feels betrayed and once again let down by the failure of the GMP to act.
Did he just say the copper's coming back
to make
on
a public appeal? And this is important. The family wished to make a public appeal to all those within the community that they expect them to remain calm. They do not expect, nor will they tolerate demonstrations outside police stations or anyone to take the law into their own hands. The family state the police have had enough to deal with on the streets at the moment, and all resources must be deployed to protecting our community from racist far-right thugs. 13. I wish to issue a warning to Greater Manchester Police that the family expect due legal process to take place. No party, no police representatives, no so-called police sources should continue with their attempts to interfere with that process by issuing statements, claiming to paint a different picture, whilst caveating it with asking people to await the outcome of the IOPC investigation. 14. There must be no further attempts to harass or victimizing this family, and let me make it clear, that applies not just to those sat next to me.
You're watching Sky News, listening there to Solicitor Amma Anwar reading out a statement on behalf of the family involved in the incident in Manchester Airport last month, where a police officer kicked a man in his head and stamped on it. My apologies for any of the language that was used during that press conference. We have no control over what the language
Right, okay, mate, let's hear what's fucking getting said. You fucking, do you like the sound of your own voice, you prick?
Sky News not in control of that press conference, obviously. So again, my apologies for that. Let's cross live now from Manchester to our Westminster newsroom, where Rachel Vandals is for us. And Rachel, just give us your analysis on what we've just been hearing, if you will.
Why did you take it away?
Explosive press conference, wasn't it, from Manchester?
Why the fuck did they just kill that, the pricks?
Like Monday, a middle distance race will provide the...
I could get the highlights later, I suppose. I can't believe they just killed the streamer.
Into a huge amount of
Interesting to hear this
detail that I
stuff,
need
you
to
know.
stress. We obviously need to hear more from Greater Manchester Police on, but huge numbers of allegations there from Amma Anwar, the solicitor who is representing now the family involved in that incident. He talked at the start about wanting to give context to that video, which of course we all saw, which sparked protests and demonstrations in the Rochdale and the centre of Manchester area 2 weeks ago, when it emerged seemingly of a police officer kicking and stomping on a man as he lay on the ground. I think we can have a look at that video now.
It could have killed the dude. Very easily could have killed that dude.
People, you don't camera. Leave him. Move back. Shut up. Move back. Move back. Move back. Move back. Side. Move back. Move back.
See if we can see the jab to the north.
Of course, a deeply distressing and upsetting video there, and huge numbers of details, as we mentioned already, that Amma Anwar, the solicitor, went into there as he was flanked on either side by the two brothers and the mother involved in this family. They talked about what they've gone through since that incident as well. Huge amounts, he said, of disinformation online, of Islamophobia, of racist abuse. And he also accused Greater Manchester Police of not doing enough to protect the family.
We
have had a statement from Greater Manchester Police. This was before this most recent press statement. But it says that following a thorough review of further information that has become available in relation to an incident at Manchester Airport, Greater Manchester Police has suspended a police officer from all duties. They added, "We understand the deep concerns that have been widely raised with us," and they say they'll continue to meet and discuss these feelings with Greater Manchester residents and elected representatives whilst this independent investigation takes place. We do know that 3 officers received head injuries, including a broken nose, during this incident, and also that 4 men were arrested at the time and released on bail. We also know that the IOPC, the independent police watchdog who investigates police, are investigating 1 police officer being suspended and being told that criminal proceedings could emerge from this.
I must have misheard that he was coming back.
Rachel Venables, for the moment, thank you, appreciated.
Come out in the wash.
Bring you some breaking news now. In the last few minutes, it's emerged that 28 people will appear at Teesside's Magistrates Court today, charged with violent disorder and other offences following the Middlesbrough disorder on Sunday the 4th. This news comes as South Yorkshire Police announced that 6 people have been charged with similar offences for the events in Rotherham on the same day. They will appear in Sheffield Magistrates Court tomorrow. Meanwhile,
two-tier policing. I mean, those brown guys that had a fight with the cops, they get out in bail, but all the rioters are not getting out of bail. That's because the police are hedging their bets that they don't go straight back out in the street and continue doing what they were doing to try and stop all this fucking onslaught of rioting. Protesting against what I do not know. Anyway, this is a farce. I mean, it's going to turn into some shit show, innit? And again, it's going to polarise people right into 2 camps. If you're talking about the Manchester Airport shit show, hashtag still don't excuse your head getting stamped on. Cops should have been professional, man, but that goes without saying. If half of the shit that they're saying is true, this guy was jacked up, man, fucking Red Bull or something. And again, you've got women in the front line. If violent situations happen, which cops expect to happen in their career, they might get fucking some idiot fucking going to town on them. And then if a male sees that, they lose their shit. Women shouldn't be on the front line, in my opinion. I'm not arguing. Are you English then? Did us get your baby back as Tommy becoming refugees then? No idea, my friend. No idea. Anywho, I am going to do the off. But interesting to see that and I'm pretty sure that is I'll find out, man. The lawyer's name will be everywhere in all the reports. A wee Google and I'll be able to place him. I'm pretty sure was it Thomas Sheridan? I know the idiot for YouTube land, the ex-politician. I don't think he's a politician now anymore. Up here, I'm pretty sure he used them when he was going through all his legal judge jazz with the newspapers for saying he was going to sex parties. Anyway, I predict more riots tonight. In fact, let's do a wee experiment. Do you think that stuff's made it on the Twitters yet? I'm going to argue maybe this stuff is already at the Twitters. Can't wait for that. You know, watching Rangers isn't fucking good. See, I've fixed my algos. I just get dogs and I still get a wee bit of this. Oh my god. No, that's a parody, right? Oh, she gives him a big kick. Nope. Well done. See, I've kind of fixed my algos where it's just not that isn't real. That isn't real. No fucking chance. See, I've almost... almost kind of fixed my algos where I don't just get Nigel Vag pish. I get lots of stuff like this. Don't know why. Guy had to slow down. Oh, here we go. Here's somebody. Right. Oh, I don't even want to comment on that, man. Manchester now looks like a city in Pakistan. Well, I'm going to guess this might have been during like a fucking cricket game or a football game or something, and that's why they all took to the streets with their wee flags. I mean, if that scares you, man, get out of Dodge. Fuck's sake. Right, so it's no managed on his... Nah, I've done is that pinned. Rogue gallery of figures fanning the flames of violence. Make me look as cool as fuck. Makes you look like a shifty wee midget, mate. Who's... oh, Vag. He's get political capital to be made off all of this. And is that old actor cunt? Can't you remember the guy that got kicked off GB News? Neil Oliver. He's on GB News, isn't he? Some people have told me that Aviemi was in the IDF. Maybe it was him that took Tommy to Israel to get him on the tank and all that, you know? Right. But you can kind of get the example. No way, was he drinking a beer when he was doing that? I never clocked that. Was it an energy drink or something? Oh no, it's that's quite funny. Anyway, that's the pish. Oh shit, I didn't even show you that, didn't I? I should have showed you that, sorry. That's a different lawyer to the first one they had, Kip. Aye, mate, I think this... I'll stick his name in. He's a Glaswegian guy and he's done a famous cases up here. His name definitely rings a bell. But he's highly respected. You know? Recent subgroup videos. H-back, thank you. Not a lot of people get it, and no doubt I'll upset you at some point. But I'm going to do the off and make the most of the rest of the day. Try and stay away from the news. Might even do a wee bit of Netflix. What am I looking for? Work for my brain. So thanks everybody, stick a wee thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Just need to okay some comments that get got up in the doohickey. I'm a midget, yeah, he's a supremacist. You'd have done in that police video of the midget, man, that's fucking hilarious. And I know they get rid of a lot of the age restriction, the height restrictions and all that. I think it used to be like, need to be like borderline fucking 6 foot to be in the cops. I know they get rid of that to employ all the women, but a literal midget, man, that's pushing the boat out. In riot gear. Oh, but every day's a school day. Well, be a sad old world if we agreed on everything and then it would just become a social media echo chamber blowing smoke up each other's arse. We're calling each other brother. Hey, brother. I could join the police. You couldn't join the police. I'm too short. Did you not see that video? Let me see if I can show you it, man. It's fucking absolutely hilarious. TikTok banned it initially, and then then I appealed and won the appeal. I don't know, am I lying? Oh, proof of two different levels. I take it off, police. Exhibit A, Your Honour. A genuine midget, man, in the fucking riot squad. Look at that. Life's got me mad, but if I have got a theory, it's Tommy Robinson moonlighting. Trying to get some inside information. So he just stuck on some riot gear, man, and got in line. He's not really in Cyprus. So have a nice day, y'all. I'll catch you on the other side. Sub and bail up, and you'll get the live streams when I'm putting them up. And who knows, I might even do another wee Daily PoliTITS tomorrow, but it's going to be more of the same shit, and it's going to be more riots tonight. Somewhere a group will be getting riled up, and who knows, maybe the muzzies in the far right cult will meet, get some good footage, loot some good shops. So have a nice afternoon. I'll see you later, y'all. Catches. Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.